Hello and welcome everyone to round 5 of the Botez chess camp. My name is Joe. I'm joined by international master Kostya, who's joining me to cover Jules versus Nemo. Nemo's
Hello,
got
hello.
the black pieces. Kostya, this is your first time joining for this event, but have you been following the round so far?
Yeah, Joe, I have. I've been managing to catch a bit of the tournament. Granted, I've been very busy in St. Louis with the U.S. seniors, U.S. juniors last couple weeks. So I kind of could only catch bits and pieces of the event. But no, I've been following the results. I think it's a great tournament. I'm actually super pumped to be able to cover this game because I know both players. I actually think it'll be very interesting. Um, and yeah, OTB Classical. I was just telling you, I love this new meta of the OTB Classical. I think it's great. Just like following players that you know, watching their games live, and kind of sweating the action with them. Super, super fun. So yeah, I'm pumped to be here.
And you mentioned you know both players. I know Jules has actually been spending quite some time in St. Louis recently.
That's right. That's right. Jules has been in St. Louis. We've been hanging out. She's been going to the chess club. I know she's been studying. I often see her with a book or books near her. So she's been training hard. And she's done all right so far, I'd say, in the tournament. Would you agree?
Yeah, she's at 1.5 points. She beat Andrea in the first round, which was considerably an upset, and she also held Linda to a draw. And Linda actually got her first win also against Andrea earlier today. So Jules and Linda are tied at 1.5 points each, trailing Nemo by a half point. So Nemo, I think, coming off of her last round, just had her first loss of the event against Dina, one of the favorites. Had a bye or a rest day technically yesterday, and is looking to get a full point here against Jules, a bounce back win, get back in the win column.
Yeah, actually, this opening is already very interesting. We have a Rui Lopez on the board, which I don't think I've seen Jules play uh, before. Nemo, I think definitely like she's a E4 E5 player from what I know. So this is like, although I don't know if this is what she normally goes for in the Rui. I feel like I've seen her play some Bishop C5 stuff. Um, but yeah, what's your impression of the players so far? Do you feel like people have been like prepping for each other, or what do you think?
I think they definitely have been. I think that at the start they were kind of joking around saying, "Oh, we're not going to take this too seriously. Like we're all friends here." But I think the competitive juices are definitely flowing. Over halfway through the tournament, I think these players have for sure been doing some opening prep. I feel like at their level, it's kind of hard not to. And yeah, they're definitely taking it seriously. Don't let them fool you if they tell you otherwise.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a FIDE rated event. Yeah, I mean you can joke around all you want, but there's FIDE rating points on the line. I think those are easy to get.
Yeah, and there's cash prizes on the line as well, top three. Um,
Cash.
so money is pretty valuable. Maybe not as valuable as FIDE rating, but it's an incentive for sure. And I kind of want to go through the start of this game. You mentioned this was a Rui Lopez Jules with the white
Yeah.
pieces, e4, e5, both knights coming out, bishop e5, the Spanish or the Rui Lopez, an immediate a6, then knight to f6, d3 from Jules, b5 from Nemo, kicking the bishop
Yeah,
back.
so there was a question in the chat if b5 is early. The reason black played b5 early is because white actually played d3 early. So this was a very nuanced moment. When white goes d3 in this position, it defends the e4 pawn, which then means that white is now threatening to take on c6 and then win the e5 pawn. So that's why exactly black should go b5 in this moment, because otherwise you could lose a pawn. And then after bishop b3, then black has actually a choice here. Like you can play bishop c5, bishop e7. Both moves are super normal. But yeah, Nemo went bishop e7, castles, castles, and any more moves or? Is that live?
Well, this is the live position, but we see Jules reaching for her other knight, going to c3, and usually the pawn goes to c3, so this bishop on b3 can go back to c2 if needed. So I'm curious. Yeah, Nemo plays d6, and I guess, are we preparing for knight a5?
Yeah, so knight c3, this is definitely like a modern setup. They started doing this in lots of positions where you play knight c3, and then usually white goes a4 at some point. You try to provoke b4 as like a weakness, and then the knight comes to d5. You kind of play for like a small positional plus. There are other things you can do. Sometimes the knight can go to e2 and then g3, and then you get this like classic Rui Lopez maneuver where the knight ends up on g3, and that's like a very typical like kingside thing. Okay, Jules plays a3. All right, so dealing with knight a5. We didn't even get to knight a5 yet. Jules has already dealt with it. Now knight a5 is kind of irrelevant. White will just drop the bishop back. Um, a3 is yeah, very logical move. I feel like Jules is still in her prep just based on like how quickly she's. It's not like the most obvious move you would just blitz out if like you didn't know this position, but she goes a3, and yeah, I would say. mm, Well, I'm sure Black has different ways of playing this. I feel like Bishop e6 is kind of the most like straightforward. But maybe there's other moves. Maybe Bishop g4 is a move here for Black. I'm definitely not an expert in these positions, but I've played like e4 e5 a little bit. So,
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of playing it against the Roy Lopez. Roy Lopez, one of the most famous openings of all time. Obviously, a really solid setup, but the way Jules is playing this with a3, I still think knight a5 is of some consideration, even though the bishop's going to just dodge that knight and just tuck back on a2. We're at least getting out of the way of the c pawn. So we could push for c5 and then bring the knight back. That might be maybe too many moves, but I do like your bishop g4 idea, pinning the knight and then preparing for potentially knight to d4, hitting the knight with
mhm.
the tempo.
Yeah, that was definitely a try. Yeah, I think your c5 idea is quite reasonable. And we see Nemo going h6. Nemo also playing quickly. Um, I imagine she's just had these positions before, and so she kind of knows what she wants to do. H6 is a very normal move. You can just prevent bishop g5. In some cases, knight g5 as well. And then you see what white wants to do. Um, Another very typical like plan for black is to play like rook e8, bishop f8, and then you go bishop e6, and then you don't even double your pawns with the bishop trade. Um, so yeah, still kind of like flexible position for both sides. I feel like you have a lot of options here. Um, Now for Jules, and now like Jules could go h3, just be like, all right, you went h6, I'll go h3. Like this is also useful for white. Um, Knight e2, knight g3, knight d5, rook e1. I feel like one of those moves is my guess. One of those four moves.
Yeah, lots of options. Still a very flexible position. Still very early
Yeah.
on. Nemo's gained a minute and a half from the start, and
Hmm.
Jules barely having spent any time of her own. But what was crazy is one of the games that actually might be ending very soon, if not already, but it's Alexandra Botez versus Anna Kramling. I don't know if
Hmm.
you tuned in at all before this.
I was watching this game, yes.
Yeah, that time management, I don't know if I've ever seen that before. At move 40, Anna had a minute, and Botez had like an hour and 15 minutes. So with the extra 30 minutes, that put Anna at like 31 minutes and Botez at an hour like 46.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay,
Uh,
but okay, so like 30-second increments. So Alex spent 15 and then another like 20. So she spent like 35 minutes on the game. Something like that.
yeah, it's some impressive time management. She ended up being up 2 pawns, so I guess it worked out. And yeah, Anna,
Oh yeah, no, let me say actually that was a great game by Alex. Like that was a King's Indian,
yeah,
and I think she must have had some great prep in that one, because like I was just looking at this line like the other day, and I thought it was very nice for Black, like this idea with like Bishop F6 and H6 and Bishop G5 and this whole thing that she played. So I think she just won like a model game in the King's Indian. I thought it was like very high quality. Um, so I mean,
yes,
I don't. Is it over yet? I actually don't know. It looked like it was
it might as well
um,
be.
gonna be. Okay, she still has to convert the knight end game with like the 2 pawns. So she's got an hour and 40 minutes on her clock. Probably, probably she can manage.
It's looking good. It's looking good. Although I don't know if you saw Nemo's game versus Alexander Botez.
Yeah.
Alex had a position that was like over 6.5 points in eval in favor, and Nemo was able to hold her to a draw. So we've seen Alex perhaps mess up some in games in the past, but I think this one there's really no complications. Honestly, I don't think Anna's gonna be able to defend that unless Alex really messes it up. But the thing is, she has zero time pressure, right? She still has more time than she started with.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the knight end game 2 pawns up. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, you just need to like not rush basically and not blunder into some trick or some stalemate or some random thing. And I mean, knight end game those tend to be pretty straightforward if it's like not like yeah crazy like pawns on both sides. So yeah, should be she should be able to convert it. Rook E1. Okay, that was one of the 4 moves. I called it.
Top four. Let's go. Yeah, Kostya. I don't know how much you've been playing with Jules. Have you played many games with her? I've definitely played her. She's beaten me actually. There was a moment at TwitchCon 2 years ago, I remember, where she went in person, and we played at the chess.com booth, and she handed me. I think it was the first time she ever beat me. So I knew from years ago that Jules is underrated, and she's been coming up. She took a break from chess as a child, and is back at it stronger than ever. So she's definitely going up in the rating column.
Nice. Yeah. No, no, no. Jules has been playing a lot of classical like these last couple months, training, definitely very motivated. I mean, I think that's like a huge factor when it comes to getting better is just like how energized you are about studying the game and playing and all that. So, yeah, it's not surprising. And she's always prepping hard, right? So she's like learning new openings, learning new lines, new ideas, new positions. I think that's often helpful. You don't want to be focusing too much on the opening, but if you're spending a lot of time on chess, then you kind of have time for everything. So, um,
Yeah, I see.
yeah.
That's Alex Lebo taking some photos with his phone. That's my coworker at chess.com. He works for the content team.
Oh,
So I'm sure
nice.
people that have been following along on the social media have been seeing some good posts from chess.com as well as the players themselves. If you haven't, you're missing out. Go check that out. And yeah, shout out to the fans tuning in. I see Sack Accountant and Kevin C joining in again. Joe Yee is in there. I see White Noise, Brody, WV Chess. I see Michael
Yeah.
Dakota. You got
Shout
Foos
out to all the
Chess.
same people. I also see you guys.
Yeah, we're live on Kostya's channel too. So if you want to go give him a follow if you're not already, be sure to do that. The Chess Dojo has some of the best content out there,
Woo.
not only from Kostya, but also from Pruess and Jesse Kraai, and others more. They have their fans will sometimes take over the channel, right?
That's true. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, actually, we have a very, very active community because our main thing is like it's easier to get better at chess if you work with people around your level. So our whole thing is about like training and sparring with each other, and yeah, we often have people taking over our channel, doing commentary or like looking at lower rated players' games, which is awesome. I feel like it's a very supportive group. So yeah, shout out to Dojo. There was a question if the games are all staggered during the day, and I think they are, but I guess you would know better.
Today is the most staggered it's ever been. There was a game that was started even earlier than usual. Typically, the rounds have been at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. Two games at 11 and two games at 3. Today, one game started early, I think like 9:30. And then you had, I think, one game start at the normal time, 11, and then one game started at like noon, or I don't know. Today was crazy. But yeah, Nemo and Jules started at the normal 3 p.m. time, although they were actually a little bit delayed. And I think it's possible the last 2 days, the last rounds will start at 1, but don't quote me on that. Nemo is not going to be affected by that. Her last two games are both morning rounds. So if you guys have been tuning in at the same time every day, be sure to be early tomorrow. She's going to play 11 a.m., I believe, against Anna Kramling, who's been playing the morning rounds because her mom is actually commentating all the way in Europe.
Right. Yeah, that's nice. I think Pia Kramling is like the best commentator.
Well, yeah, I mean that mother-daughter connection, it's hard to beat. And
Just
she's
the words per minute, just the value per minute she provides is, I think, insane.
and she goes solo too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, amazing.
Shout out to Kevin C. Wong, also Mr. Fraz with the Prime 6 months. Appreciate that, half a year. I want to shout out Kostya's channel, Chess Dojo. I think had a rebrand. You guys dropped the live from the Twitch link, right? It's just Chess Dojo
Yes,
now.
Joe, that's true. It's big news. So there's no more Chess Dojo Live, just Chess Dojo now. We're very happy. Actually, it's a very complicated process at Twitch to change your username. Even though the username was available, they
Mm,
still they make you wait like 6 months. So it's painful. It's
got it.
painful.
Well, yeah, I don't
But
know
we
if you.
got it.
Congratulations. Maybe we
Thank you.
can edit
Thank you.
the host command so we get the right link. Shout out to Boy Shack and Kevin C. Wong, Grumpy. Appreciate all of our mods here. We got. I don't know if I've been saying this right. It's Messink. My apologies. I gotta learn the VIPs of the Nemo channel. Uh,
Oh, I always read that as Meskin C. I don't know why. It's
I don't
probably
know. I
it's
don't know.
probably not correct.
I like I think the first time I read it, in my mind it was like Mesk NYC because I'm thinking New York City, but I guess not. Anyways, Michael Dakota,
Yeah,
they've been subbed for 6 months total, I think is what that was.
we've got some action. So we saw Bishop G4 from Nemo, which was one of the kind of normal moves for Black in the position, just pinning the knights. And Jules goes Bishop E3 in response, which I think is very normal because this kind of deals with Black's idea of knight D4. Because Black still can go knight D4 right now, but if she does, then White will take it with the bishop. Black goes E takes D4, and then White will have a choice, but maybe plays knight D5, let's say. And I think from what I understand about these positions, White tries to argue that their structure is a little bit better and they maybe have a small plus.
Yeah, that looks to be one of the top lines actually. Um, so I'm curious
Well,
to see if Nemo goes for
there you
it.
have it.
Typically, I feel like I don't want to put the knight on d4 and let the bishop capture, but you could do that and try to get like the bishop pair, which is nice. But after knight d5 in response, your dark square bishop's kind of trapped, and I guess you could trade knights there.
Mm-hmm.
And then white would have a choice taking with the pawn or with the bishop. If you take with the bishop, it comes with the tempo on the rook in the corner. Yeah.
Yeah, so like for example, let's say Black goes like knight D4, White plays bishop takes, ED, knight D5, knight takes, bishop takes, and then black will have to move the rook somewhere.
Yeah,
And
you don't want to go to c8 because of bishop b7, right?
yeah, it's like rook b8, and then at the end of all that, white plays a4, and then tries to open up the rook on the a file. But I see we have other moves. So what has happened? It looks like queen d7 was played. Is that right?
I can't see it. I guess I'm waiting for the board to update, but that looks to be possible.
Oh,
I
the board.
believe.
So yeah, I'm just watching the video, and it looks like queen d7, knight d5 are on the board.
Okay, queen d7 and knight to b, or sorry, where did the knight go?
d5, d5.
d5.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, looking for some trades in the center totally makes sense.
Yeah, knight d5, very typical move from white. Um, Maybe you want to put it on your. Are you able to make moves on your board?
Yeah.
Now.
Okay, now they're updating.
Oh, oh, I just heard them. Well, that's good. You never know with these DGT boards. You just never know. But looks like we got it. Nice. Okay. So here, I feel like black has some choice because you're not really worried about knight takes bishop. Because you'll just take back. White spent a lot of time trying to take this one. And it's a relatively close position. Black is kind of okay. So you're not like super worried. That said, main move I would start by thinking about is just like knight takes d5. Like, does it make sense to just trade this knight? White probably takes with the bishop, and then maybe black moves the rook somewhere, eventually moves the knight from c6. Seems like a very normal game. Maybe white has a small plus, not much.
Yeah, I think so far so good. For Jules especially, with the white pieces, your goal is to just get out of the opening. You stick to something solid, the Roy Lopez. And yeah, Nemo's thinking on what she wants to do here. Still very flexible for both players. I have a question in my chat. Why isn't GM Benjamin Bach playing in this? Well, this is a invite
Good
only
question.
tournament. So there's only 8 players, and they're all women content creators. So yeah, they're specifically invited by the Botezes, and I'm sure they're gonna maybe consider doing more events like this in the future. Maybe the Chess Dojo community will copy this format and do their own 8-player round robin invitational, maybe hosted in St. Louis.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Maybe Bach could
Would you
get
play in
invited.
that?
If I get invited, I'm sure that I would be totally honored. Um, yeah, actually, I was seeing a couple people debating of like who like else could have potentially been invited to something like this, and I think it'd be really fun format. Like if other streamers wanted to set up something for their own community, obviously not every player has to be, super well known celebrity, whatever. But you could even do it with like viewers, maybe not in person, but like online, and stream it. So yeah, fun format ideas. Maybe it doesn't have to be classical, um, but it's always great to have chess events that players can participate in and viewers can watch. So huge shout out to the Botezes for setting this up, and I hope
Yeah.
that it goes well so they can do more events in the future.
No, absolutely. Super fun event. I think like OTB Classical is actually great, especially when like the players or like like they're streamers, they have fans, people are rooting for them. Um, I don't know. I think it's very cool to see like your favorite streamers play against each other. Um, and yeah, we try to do some event. I mean, we have like our own like online events. We don't like stream them hardcore, but That's definitely an idea. We did this show back in the day called Ultimate Sensei, which was fun, where we had streamers compete against each other. It wasn't classical, but it was actually more rapid. But they would like train and like actually like do lessons and try to improve and compete against each other. Um, that was very fun. A lot of work to organize. So kudos to the Botezes for putting this on. Um,
Yeah, and in such a beautiful venue in Malibu. And there's been so much
yeah.
content made. It's kind of interesting. The players have been super well dressed, and I feel like today, after the rest day, we see Nevo and Jules just wearing t-shirts today. They look very comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like it's a t-shirt kind of day. So Nemo just went knight h7, which to me seems very aggressive. Like she's playing for knight to g5 and trying to harass white on this pin. Um, Seems okay. Though maybe white can ask a question with like knight takes e7 here. Queen takes e7, there's bishop d5. And then if knight takes d7, then maybe there's d4, and white tries to open up the center for the two bishops. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So Joe, actually, I'm just watching the game um, on your screen, so I'm not looking at the engine. So I don't know. I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like it's just more fun just to give my own thoughts because I don't like watching like having the engine on if I'm really following a game. If I'm just checking a game for like 2 seconds, like okay, I'll check the engine. But if I'm like watching a game like getting into it, I'd rather just watch without myself.
yeah,
Uh,
that totally makes sense. And people can follow along on the events page. There's a link to the Botez event that I could share in the chats. And I do want to say when you mentioned that White could pose a question to the player to Nemo in particular, I thought that your question to ask was going to be h3 and ask the bishop where it wants to go, right? Because you said knight h7, the clear idea is going to g5, uh, attacking this pinned knight. So
mhm.
before you allow knight to g5, you can start with an attack. So I think your move idea, taking on e7, makes a lot of sense because the hierarchy of the moves that you want to look at are checks, captures, and threats. And obviously, knight takes e7, not only a check, but also a capture. That is definitely the most forcing move, and that's going to be
Double
easiest
whammy.
to calculate. You either take back with the queen or with the knight. So that kind of flow makes a lot of sense. But yeah, h3 is obviously a threat attacking the bishop, and Nebo would have to decide where is the future for that bishop. Do you want to go back? Do you want to stay on the pin? Do you want to attack the other knight? Or maybe even a potential sacrifice on h3, although I probably don't want to advocate for that. I think it could be scary if you see that queen getting in and losing two pawns in front of your king, but I think uh, Jules would be able to defend herself there and be glad to be up a piece.
Yeah, I think h3 most likely black is dropping back to h5. Just given the way Nemo's played this so far, I feel like maybe objectively the safest move is just bishop back to e6, try to neutralize white's pieces, but she could have put her bishop on e6 earlier, so I don't think that's what she wants from this position. So h3, I would imagine we're going to see bishop h5. And then the question is really for white if you want to go g4 or not. Um, and then if white does go g4, okay, then the sack is much more tempting because it kind of comes with check, with tempo. I would be very skeptical of the sacks because it feels like white has all her pieces in the game. So I'm not sure, but minimum on g4, black drops back bishop to g6, and white has weakened the king side, so it's kind of double-edged. And it feels like that's kind of what Nemo's looking for here. I mean, just based on her play so far, feels like she's um, definitely playing for activity.
Yeah, and it's Jules' turn, so she'll have to try to stop this knight g5 idea at some point. I'm sure knight g5, like worst case, you can give up your bishop for it, and then Nemo could take back, or you could have this knight takes e7 idea that you had, and if queen takes, you're not really threatening knight g5 because again, if bishop takes, yeah, you don't really want to take with the h pawn, right? Because that's gonna kind of just be awkward.
Yeah, it might depend. Actually, Abdul in in the Dojo chat is pointing out actually very important idea. If white goes h3, black plays bishop h5, then there might be a knight takes e5 tactic in the position.
Yeah, because the bishop on h5 is no longer defended, so that's a very good point.
Oh, I see. The eval bar is confirming that one. Oh, nice. So h3 actually was a very, and Jules takes on e7. I'm curious, very curious if the players had this one. I feel like there's no reason not to play h3 there as white.
Yeah, h3 was definitely one of the top recommendations. That would have been a nice little trick to get your knight unpinned. So maybe knight h7, maybe letting up a little bit of pressure and allowing Jules an opportunity there. Instead, we see the capture on e7. And now Nemo has a choice, a 50-50 coin flip, perhaps, taking back with the knight or with the queen. I feel like queen takes makes a lot of sense, but you got to really feel that bishop d5 is really annoying. So probably knight takes, preventing that is the top choice.
Yeah, I think knight takes here, and then I can head over to g6. At some point, black can play like king h8 and f5. Knight takes c7. I feel like black is getting a pretty decent position. Um,
Yeah,
Maybe white can go d4. Not sure.
knight takes, and yeah, d4 is a strong move. Playing in the center makes a lot of sense. Jules just put a jacket on. It's probably pretty chilly in the house. I know Dina was actually saying that the air is way too cold in the house, and I feel like that's kind of a common thing, I think, for Europeans, right? They're not really used to so much AC.
Hmm. Maybe I don't know. I like it cold, better for sleep, and you can always put layers on, get more comfortable.
True.
If it's
Yeah.
too warm, then at a certain point, it's just nothing you can do. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
We're all out in California. Kostya probably isn't
true.
too far out here, so if you can tell, maybe some Chess Dojo fans can tell Kostya is not at his usual setup.
Indeed.
So yeah, weather out in California is typically pretty nice, but it can get hot in the summer for sure.
Yeah, it's warm today. I'm in the valley, and the sun is a sunnin'.
It's
It's
out. It's out.
it's out for sure. So Nemo's thinking here, which is interesting to me, because 97 looks very logical, but is there okay, and 97 played. Okay.
Knight takes. You still have this h3 idea actually. Um, there, I guess bishop to e6 is only move.
Yeah, but here h3 is like here h3 knight takes e5 I think is a lot easier to spot. So I feel like on the last move there was like actually a reasonable chance of it working. Um, because it's kind of unexpected as a trick. Uh,
Yeah, you want to play as tricky as possible. I don't think Nemo would have fallen for it, but yeah, Jules might not even play h3 now. Um, you mentioned earlier there's always this a4 idea. You mentioned d4. The computer also likes c3 as an option, which makes a lot of sense. So it's calling for a lot of pawn moves. I think that it likes where the pieces are. And the only thing that white hasn't done to complete development is develop the queen. You don't really want to move the queen right now. If you go to d2, you're allowing black to capture that knight, damage the pawn structure, and you don't really want to go to e2 because it's not really helping, I feel like, that much. So h3 is very logical. It immediately just deals with this pin. And then white can continue with their development, lifting the queen. Black, meanwhile, already has their rooks connected. So black also has gotten out of the way of the c pawn, which can be put into the game, either going to c6 or c5, and contribute that way. c5 probably would be a nice move, just preventing white from playing d4.
Yeah, h3 I think makes a lot of sense. C3 I don't really get. Feel like, yeah, maybe d4 would be the move I would be leaning towards as white as my first thought. But maybe d4, if you don't like that black can go e takes d4, maybe that would be a reason to play c3.
Yeah,
Try to take back with the pawn.
you keep that pawn duo in the center, which is nice. And I'm curious to see how Jules does with her time management. I haven't been paying too closely attention in her game so far, but I feel like she's been pretty decent, especially if you compare it to other players like Anna Kramling, who seemingly seems to be low on time every time you look at the board.
Yeah, terminal. Every game. Maybe not every game, but a lot of games.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's other players, I guess, like Alexander Botez, who doesn't use any time.
She's a more intuitive player. Yeah, but that works against her because then she's kind of prone to blundering sometimes because she'll make a quick move and miss something. We were, me and David Pruess, we were covering her and Andrea's games in this tournament. They were playing a couple weeks ago. And yeah, she was like playing great, and then like just like one like quick move, just like the whole position. It was just a big blunder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely happens sometimes if you play too quickly. But luckily, these classical time controls, you got plenty of time to think, especially early on here. Nemo's gotten up from the board. She's been dealing with a cough for sure, so she's been typically going to the restroom, and you see she's actually got an inhaler right there. So, yeah, it's tough. If you've played a tournament where you're not feeling 100% well, it can definitely take a toll. And especially, fun fact about Nemo's tournament so far, this is round 5. The previous 4 rounds, Nemo's had the longest game. She's always been the last player competing. So when all the other games have finished, Nemo's still at the board, and all that time adds up, and it takes extra energy to compete. So hopefully she's back and feeling better after this rest day that they had yesterday, and hopefully it's not affecting her too much.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It always sucks to play when you're sick or not feeling well. Um, Thankfully it's like one game a day, which is nice because you can at least like you can muster up energy for one game. 2 games a day is just absolutely brutal. If you're not at your full health. Um, but yeah, on the other hand, sometimes you play your best chess when you're like not at your 100%. When you're like a bit sick for whatever reason, like you end up, I don't know, you're able to focus on the game a bit more. But yeah, it's not particularly fun, I gotta say.
It's because your coughs are distracting your opponent.
It could be, you know. But it happens actually. I definitely played in like open events where, you know, it's like a lot of people packed into a room, and then like something just ends up going around the tournament because you'll just hear like multiple
Oh
players
yeah.
coughing, it's like, and it just spreads throughout the event.
Yeah, yesterday, even though it was a rest day, there was actually still a Blitz side event that they played in. So there's still lots of
Mhm.
chess. Uh, And Nemo was actually, her board was set up outside. She was playing out in the fresh air, out in the sun, and she was talking about how the air definitely feels better, whereas inside maybe it's a little bit stuffy. Um, so yeah, maybe it has to do with the air temperature. I'm not sure, but yeah, she has asthma, which is something that I didn't know until this
Hmm.
tournament. But that is unfortunate. I grew up with pretty bad asthma. I definitely went through a bunch of inhalers and luckily kind of grew out of it. And I think asthma affects everyone differently. For me, it was definitely like exercise induced. So it was really a struggle for me to exercise. I think Nemo said that exercise actually helps her asthma. So it could also be a seasonal thing.
Oh wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. Hmm. Okay. Well, 97. Uh, again, white has a lot of moves. I don't really see a reason not to go h3. Even if on bishop h5 you don't see knight takes e5 yet, it still feels kind of useful to insert this. Now you do have to, I mean, you would be a little bit afraid of the sack, but I think ultimately, here's one way to deal with the sack. Maybe this could be instructive. Let's say white went h3 and black took on h3, as you might in a bullet game, and then goes queen takes h3. Then I feel like a nice reaction from white would be knight h2. And the idea here is that you're trying to bring your queen in, exactly, and challenge black's queen on h3. And eval bar supports this. Ooh, okay. I was nervous for a sec. Again, I'm just trying to. Normally, Joe, I would just raw dog the game, just like no
Yeah,
engine, no eval bar. That would be my deal. Here, I at least have the eval bar I'm watching on your screen, but still, uh,
yeah. No,
no moves.
I think it's fun. You should have some more confidence in yourself, Coast. Your engine is typically just as good as the eval that we see here. But yeah, we have it on for the broadcast for the viewers. I know not everyone likes to see it on. I think this is just kind of what we've been doing and sticking to. I feel like it's the kind of the default of what like most broadcasts do. But I do agree that it's nice to look without it and be able to assess on your own. So,
Yeah.
uh,
No, I mean, I think like when there's like hundreds and thousands of people watching, and a lot of people actually like they have relatives tune in and who like don't know anything about chess. They just want to see how their player is doing. And then the eval bar I think is very helpful just to give them a sense of like where things are at. So I think it's totally I'm totally in favor. But yeah, when we're watching our boy Jesse play in the US senior over at the dojo, then it's like it's so much more fun to follow without it because it's like we're kind of getting into what it's like for the players more and
oh yeah,
what they might be thinking.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's crazy. Some of these evals that you get in positions, you see it's like, oh, it's completely winning for whoever, and then you actually look at the line and you're like, well, no human would ever play this crazy move. And okay,
yeah,
H3 played from Jules, definitely top choice.
nice.
And we'll see. There's a chance Nemo blunders with bishop back to H5. One of the most natural moves in the position, just trying to maintain that pin. But Jules would have a sneaky discovery, I guess, against the bishop. Usually pins work with a knight being pinned, right? But pins go both ways, actually. So the knight can just say, ignoring the pin, I'm going to attack your queen, taking a pawn along the way. And if you take my queen, I'll take yours. Although now that I look at that, maybe your knight could get trapped. No, the knight's also hitting the rook on f8. Anyways, we don't see any of that. Bishop comes back to e6. This is definitely the only move for Nima to hold any sort of equal position. So she's played it relatively quickly as well, and hopefully Jules doesn't spend too much time here because she is actually kind of getting a little bit low on the clock relative to Nemo. Nemo's been fairly quick so far out of this opening.
Yeah, plays that one pretty fast, which shows actually I think she's in Feels like she's in good form because she realized that's the only move, so might as well play it. Nothing else is working. You definitely don't want to give up the light squared bishop for the knight. And yeah, bishop e6. But see, that's the thing. That's why the fact that white took on e7 and got the bishop pair is not such a big deal, because now black can just trade off the other pair of bishops. And okay, it'll be bishop versus knight, pretty close to equal, but I'd say these positions are can become double-edged like very easily. And so, to me, honestly, I slightly even maybe, I don't know if I like prefer black's chances, but to me, black's game makes sense because after the bishops get traded, at some point black will play f5, and you get this like kingside play. It feels very logical. Whereas I don't know exactly what white is doing here, with her next couple of moves. Maybe some kind of d4. Maybe that's the main thing you have to do
Yeah,
before black has a chance.
d4 you've been calling for. It's one of the most logical moves. Playing in the center. Trading bishops also has to be one of the top moves to consider because black is also threatening to take the bishop, and you don't really want to take with your c pawn. That would kind of be a nuisance doubling. And we do see Jules reaching over and trading. And you mentioned black has this plan of playing f5. So after this capture, Nemo has another option, another choice here to take with queen or take with pawn. And she's not
Yeah.
rushing. She didn't like pre-move or anything. She has to weigh her options, right? And so if you take with the f pawn, maybe you're helping support d5. But f5 is definitely a very attractive move to go for. So I'm expecting a queen capture here.
No, this is an interesting choice. You could totally take with the f pawn, and then just like double your rooks on the f file, go knight g6, knight f4. I mean, because I imagine Nemo's playing for the win here, right? Like she's the higher rated player, and is gonna want to kind of imbalance the position. So like f e6, rook f7, rook a f8, knight g6, knight f4. Honestly, seems totally reasonable. Because the nice thing about doubling your pawns is that now when white plays d4, you can take on d4, and you haven't really given up your center. You keep your nice center, so it's like you're neutralizing white's play a little bit.
Yeah, either way is a totally solid way to play. Typically in these sort of positions, I take with the pawn to open up the rooks, and that's exactly what Nemo's done actually. So she's
Wow,
not going for this
one
f5
takes.
idea. She's putting more pawns in the center. She's opening up for her rook. So I like this a lot as well. Going
Yeah,
for the rooks doubling on the f file. I think this is going to be exciting. And when you do that, you're also threatening potential sacrifices, exchange sacrifices for the knight on f3. And even though you're giving up an exchange, you're really opening up white's king, and it can be a very fun and exciting attack.
for sure. Yeah, grandmaster move fe. Just like somewhat, you think it's like a little counterintuitive. You're doubling your pawns, but these double pawns in the center are often good, and they control a lot of squares. I don't know if we've done the classic highlight of like d5, d4, f5, f4, but now black has all these squares under their control, which is nice. Um, and yeah, the exchange sack totally is a thing. Like, let's say white just makes natural move queen d2, and just for example, let's see if black takes on f3. I'm curious what eval bar would think of this. I feel like it's not. It's kind of interesting for black, but we'll see. So queen d2, rook f3, gf, and then let's say knight g6 from there,
Yeah, it's rating
or maybe
it's
rook
equal.
f8. Equal. Okay, down the exchange and equal with a weak engine. That means black is like winning here. That means black is basically winning, or at least has tremendous compensation.
Exactly. So that's definitely fun. Like people would rather, and look, like knight to g6, you're threatening knight h4, one move away from the
Hmm.
whole trifecta, the royal fork, which is beautiful, right? These f pawns that are doubled are super easy pickings over there. So that could definitely be a very fun way to play. Um, so I'm excited to
Yeah.
see how this one turns out because Nemo has created a path for her pieces into the king position. Another thing that you mentioned after f takes e6 is that one of the top choices from white was otherwise d4. Now it's not so
Mhm.
inviting because, well, black has two e pawns now. You might get rid of the first one, but the second one's going to come in and take that place on e5 again. So computer is not calling for d4 as one of the top moves anymore. It's saying that something maybe on the c file, like c4 or rook c1, should be suggested, or it's also saying b4. But these moves are not very exciting, right? It's all just playing over on
Rook
the queen
C1.
side.
Rook C1. No way. Um, yeah, very interesting. So, yeah, another line is like if D4, and then let's say black takes on D4, and then queen takes D4. Then maybe again black could go rook takes F3, followed by E5.
Yeah, and that's actually showing the exchange sacrifices minus 1.5 for black already at that point.
Oof,
So
that's
it's
nice. Yeah, it's kind of like combining the ideas. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
it's almost counterintuitive, right? White has played h3 to remove that bishop, so the knight's no longer pinned, but the queen really can't leave the knight still. The queen has to stick
Hmm.
around because that kingside pawn structure is so important to keep intact. That's keeping your king safe. So we'll see if Jules ever gives Nemo the opportunity to sacrifice the exchange, because that will be a certified Gotham chess moment right there.
Yeah, I think Nemo would jump on it. Certainly in like a blitz or a bullet game. So the question is, would she overthink it or not in a classical game and like talk herself out of it? Because I feel like that's exactly what she's kind of hoping for with FE6. We see C3 from Jules. That looks very logical. Now trying to push for D4, and get a like kind of strong pawn center. Um, so yeah, and actually once White does play D4, then Black will have a question to the E5 pawn. Um, because that one will be under some pressure.
Yeah, C3 I think makes the most sense. We were saying how D4 is less incentivized because black has the two E pawns now, but C3, if you play D4, black takes, white can take back with another pawn. So we see knight to
Knight
G6,
G6. Okay,
and I know
makes sense.
F4 is a really nice square for the knight. White could always take, but I think black could take back with the rook and help double up on that file.
Yeah. Also just supporting the E pawn. But now, okay, I gotta think White's next move here is D4. And then I'm not honestly sure what Black's response is gonna be there, because White wants to take on E5, and okay, the thing about the double pawns, they're stronger if they're not isolated. So like the E pawn and the E6 pawn, they really like having the D6 pawn there. If White goes D4 and then is allowed to go D takes E5, and then Black has to go D takes E5, then those pawns are a lot weaker.
Yeah, you don't want to move the D pawn to the E file, right? So
Hmm.
the double pawns we were saying not that bad, uh, but that's only if you capture as opposed to allowing white to capture. So yeah, this is an important detail to notice, and Jules surely is going to play d4 here after playing c3, and after d4, I think that you would take on d4, but uh, Jules will get that nice pawn duo in the center. I'm not sure what Nemo is going to come up with here, but we're still waiting for Jules to make her move. Also, hello to Pawn Queen stopping by, and Mr. Hockey Chess Dude, which is funny. Those are like my two biggest, uh, I don't know, hobbies. I love chess, obviously, but I'm also a big blues fan. Uh, you can't really see it on the
Oh,
stream,
nice.
but I have a blues sign behind me. Big hockey fan.
Oh, funny. Yeah, shout out Hockey Chess Dude. He's one of our regulars. Um, Question about A4 from White. I think A4 is often a move that White wants to throw in at some point, for sure. We might see it here. Personally, I feel d4 is kind of more to the point. Because I am afraid of what's coming for black on the king side, like rook f7, rook af8. That I think is going to be happening soon. So yeah, Jules goes d4.
D4 on the board, top move. This is the one that she was prepping for, that we were waiting for. And Jules gets up and she heads out. She's waiting for Nemo now to make her response. Nemo's up
By the way,
about
what
15 minutes.
Joe, I'm curious, what are the players drinking? Did you see what Jules is drinking? She's got like it's like either a yellow Red Bull or it's like one of those yerba mate teas. Just
Yeah,
curious.
I think they definitely had yerba mate over there. I don't know. I don't know exactly. Nemo's been drinking a lot of green tea. I don't know what's in the can here. Uh, oh
People are
my
saying
goodness.
Kirkland.
Yeah, it looks like a
Uh,
Kirkland brand thing.
wow,
Is Jules
wow.
wearing, is that a UNLV chess club shirt? I might be crazy.
I didn't see. Um,
I feel like it is.
she
And
does take.
I know a lot of different college chess club leaders because at chess.com I run the Collegiate Chess League, and Jules was actually part of our college ambassador program back when she was a student at Claremont, and um, we've done a lot of college chess events in LA, and also I know there's a lot of chess happening over in Vegas, where I've had the pleasure of seeing Kostya many times. And the school in Las Vegas, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, has their chess club run by someone named Kevin, who also runs the UNLV Chess Twitch account. And that is, I think, one of their shirts of their merch, because I think he gave one to me as well. So I could be crazy and it's a completely different shirt, but I'm pretty sure that's what she's wearing. Just a fun fact.
Yeah. Okay, so something's happened because I don't know if I like this position for black anymore. Because it just looks like white has this nice center. And yeah, I don't really get what black has for it, to be honest. Um,
Yeah, solid for white for sure. Extra space. One of the top moves, instead of taking on d4, the computer was actually saying that's fine, let them take on e5, but put the knight back on f6 and target the newly weakened e4 pawn. But that definitely takes some guts to allow the capture on e5 because we're mentioning how we don't want our e pawns doubled, right? So I guess you'd have to allow the capture on e5, but simply not take back and just play knight takes on e4. But yeah, that's a risky play. Oh, we're
yeah,
getting
for
a
sure.
raid from Anna Cramling. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Pia. Thank you so much. We're watching Nemo's game. Nemo's playing against Jules. Nemo's got the black pieces. This is round 5. Jules is actually trailing Nemo by half a point, so a win here for Jules could help leapfrog her in the standings. But Nemo's definitely the favorite and is looking to get a win here and bounce back after the rest day. And before that, Nemo got her first loss of the tournament against Dina Belenkaya. So Nemo's definitely looking to get the full point and get back in the win column.
Yeah, hello everyone. Sorry for Anna's loss. Seems like a tough game. Nemo, I think, might be in for a tough game herself here. Because we were just saying how White's position kind of looks nice at the moment. The nice center. But, okay, it's up to Jules, though, to figure out how to play this one. Certainly not obvious. And there's a lot of exchange sacks in the position. As if White allows something like... Okay, Rook F7 actually might be a very tricky move by Nemo, because she might be, like, provoking Jules to play like queen d2. Like, okay, like I played rook f7, don't worry about rook f3. And then on queen d2, then she might take on f3. Just try to get the sack on the board. Because even if objectively, if the sack isn't great, it's still like makes life very difficult for white.
It's too tempting.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a question on how the knight gets h7. And with the raid, I think it's worth starting over from the start so that everyone can get up to date on how the position came about. So Jules with the white pieces goes for a Spanish with e4. Nemo plays e5. The knights come out, bishop to b5. That's the Roy Lopez. a6, questioning the bishop. Knight f6. And now here we have d3. So d3 is a little early from Jules. That's just immediately defending this pawn and threatening to take the knight to win the e-pawn. So Nemo goes b5, attacking the bishop, and then getting ready for kingside castles. Knight to c3. We have d6, a3 from Jules, creating space for the bishop. h6, and rook to e1, bishop g4, pinning the knight. Bishop comes out to e3, and now queen d7. Knight to d5. This is where the knight goes back to h7, looking to go perhaps to g5, or getting out of the way of the f-pawn. Trade of dark square bishop for the knight. h3, and we can't go to h5 maintaining the pin because of this nice tactic. Knight takes e5, exposing the queen but also targeting black's queen, and the bishop is hanging on h5. So we bring the bishop back, trade the bishops, and now here Nemo has a choice: open up the f-file for the rook or to take with the queen, maybe playing for f5. Here opts for pawn takes. And now Jules has this really nice plan playing in the center. And this is how we got to the current position. Rook f7, looking to double rooks. Meanwhile, white has a nice control of the center with the pawn duo. So Jules is a little bit down on time. She just got under an hour. And even though the position is definitely in favor of Jules with white pieces, she's going to have to be able to prove that advantage and hold on to it somehow.
Yeah. But Jules playing great so far. I mean, very solid. And she hasn't really given Nemo any chances to outplay her. And just has a nice position. If anything, Nemo has kind of, taken some risk. She's given up the center. And I think what she needs to do is like just find a way to make things complicated. Because if she can get the game like really imbalanced and sharp, then like the time advantage will start to be more of a factor, and it'll be more likely that Jules makes a mistake in a complicated position. But if the position just kind of stays somewhat dry and equal, then, or not equal, but dry and kind of strategic, then yeah, I think it's right in Jules' comfort zone.
So I'm getting a couple comments. Someone saying that Nemo's eval is low. If you guys think this is low, that's nothing. You got to go back and watch Nemo's game against Alexander Botez. I believe the eval at one point was reading minus over 6.5 in favor of Botez, and Nemo was able to hold that to a draw. So it doesn't really matter what the eval says, because at the end of the day, the players don't know what the eval is, and only the results is what matters. So if the eval says, hey, it's forced mate and whatever, if the player doesn't see it, doesn't play it, then it doesn't matter, because that's just not what's going to happen. So here, definitely white is for choice, but Jules has to play the right moves, and Nemo probably isn't even thinking that she's like defensive or defending or down, right? She's just thinking, all right, I'm going to double my rooks, and I'm going to bring everything I have to the king side and really take it to the white king here. So we're in still for a very long game here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The eval bar, it's showing what the eval would be if both sides play like the chess.com low depth engine for like 12 moves. That's what the eval is of that resulting position. Which is, just one scenario out of like infinitely many that we could get. But it's like what the computer thinks is optimal. But yeah, it really doesn't speak to the difficulty of the position. This is something I've been thinking about recently. But yeah, like an engine can tell you when things are equal, but it can rarely tell you when it's going to be easier or harder for one side to play the position in like the resulting like next couple moves. Whereas a human can look at something and tell you like right away, like, oh, this position's easier for white, easier for black. Like if you're attacking, your opponent has to defend, like find only moves. It's usually going to be much harder for them. Or sometimes you have an end game where one side can make any move, the other side has to make only moves to survive. Yeah, it's always going to be harder for that one side. And so yeah, as you like kind of develop these instincts for which positions are easier or harder to handle. That the engine, yeah, rarely kind of gives insight on. At least not yet. We'll get there, where the engine will just like, well, someone will create an engine that'll just be able to evaluate things like a human.
The human eval.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen at some point.
We have a result from Thomas Chi in the chat saying Dina resigned. So that's actually a huge result. We see actually in the background
Yeah.
Jennifer Yu and Dina getting up from their board. Those were the two players tied for first. So I guess that puts Jennifer Yu at 4.5 out of 5. Her only draw at the hands of Nemo back in round one. That was
Wow.
a really big result from Nemo, drawing with the black pieces. But yeah, tough for Dina because she was, I'm sure, hoping to take home the win on this event. And we had a player or a viewer ask, "Is it normal to stand up during the match and look at other games?" Definitely, for a lot of reasons actually. And something like this in particular, a round robin where all the players are playing each other, you really got to keep an eye on what your um, other competitors are doing because you're going to end up playing them if you haven't already. And also, it's important for the standings, right? So these players are competing for cash prizes. The top three will take home some cash. And I think with that win, Jennifer Yu probably has first place locked up.
Wow. I mean, probably not totally locked up, but yeah, 4.5, great score. Um, of course, Jennifer. I mean, she's like a professional player, like two-time U.S. Women's Champion. Uh, she's won a few of these round robins before. She's got some experience.
This wouldn't be her first tournament to win.
No, it would not. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, many of these players have won. I mean, Nemo in her own right is a national champion in Canada and a world youth champion as well. So I mean, it speaks volumes to the level of this tournament. Tons of talented players. Jennifer clearly the favorite. And yeah, Nemo started off strong in round one, holding a draw down a pawn in a rook and pawn endgame against Jennifer Yu, and that was really hopeful time. And unfortunately, Nemo had some
Oh,
slips in the way. But okay, here we go. Action on
oh,
the board.
Queen C2.
Oh, are
Uh-oh.
we gonna see the exchange sack?
Dude, Nemo's like dying to play it. Did
Oh
you
my
see her? She
goodness,
was like,
she's perked
no,
up.
it's happening. It's happening.
Uh-oh, and Jules is completely unsuspecting.
Yeah. Yeah, so this that's an unfortunate move by Jules. She must have just not realized this idea is very annoying. But this is a lesson she might be about to learn.
Are we gonna see the Gotham chess move, sacking the rook from Nemo? I want to see it too, honestly. I think that's gonna make for some firework. Now, to be fair, this isn't like forced or anything. Nemo does not have to sack the rook. She could double her rooks, right? Which is very natural. And at that point, Jules probably will bring the knight back and not let that happen. Uh,
Yeah,
so that's why it's important just sack the first rook right away and then bring the
right.
other rook over, right? Don't
Yeah.
let that knight leave the scope of the rook while the iron is hot, right? You want to strike now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. If you give White a chance to go knight D2, knight H2, yeah, you're gonna miss your opportunity. So absolutely has to happen now. Um, and it's good that she's thinking about it. There's no reason you have to blitz it out. I think blitzing it out would be a little bit irresponsible. You got an hour on the clock. You're up 20 minutes. Like you can definitely think about this one for a little bit, even though she probably already knows she's gonna play it. Um, but uh, but still, there's no reason not to think about it. If it's good, it's good, and you have plenty of time to follow it up.
Ooh, she just
No,
doubles.
no, what is that? No,
Yeah,
Nemo, what?
this is like the most
What?
natural, I think, if you're not looking at the sacrifices. I think the sacrifice is definitely the most exciting follow up. Oh, she's gotten up. She's looking from the other side. So that was definitely a hasty move. You were mentioning, plenty of time to think it through. And yeah, she lets Jules off the hook. Now Jules probably gonna have to save the knight now. So a lot of players, when they sack an exchange,
Oof.
they wanna justify it by at least getting an extra pawn out of it. But here it's okay because you're gonna have so much compensation with the weak king. And this is definitely a moment we'll have to go back, and I was kind of prefacing this a little bit of saying you don't have to do it, right? And even though it's a missed opportunity, literally on the board you see the red X, um, it's still very much a game.
I mean, I think yeah, huge miss. Honestly, very strange. I feel like in a blitz game, Nemo would have just sacked on F3, just like instantly. Like just, I mean, a lot of players would. It's just a very natural sack. And now, I mean, she's like doubling up, but now, I mean, now you're like threatening to take twice and like win a pawn. I mean, I think for sure Jules is going to move the knight and not allow it. Um, but yeah, no, big miss. I mean, I wonder if there was just something she didn't like about it, like just concretely. But uh,
When
I
you
don't know. To me,
sack
it
an
looks very
exchange,
intuitive. Very, very intuitive.
it was definitely the move, but you always are taking on risk, right? When you give up material and there's no clear follow through, like you don't calculate through to like checkmate or something, you always know in the back of your mind, like if this doesn't work out, I'm just going to be down in exchange. And for what? So you kind of have to trust that it will work out. And that's kind of like something that separates some of these stronger players that just intuitively know. And you were mentioning Nemo does this all the time in Blitz. Like if she had no time, like this is just an instant heartbeat move. Nemo knows she's in it for the long run. This is a classical game, so there's really no like knockout or reason to just dive straight into the sacrifice. She's gonna play this for the long haul, but looking back on it, I know for sure she's gonna regret it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get a second chance to take on F3. Um, so yeah, what kills me is the speed with Rook AF8, you know, 'cause I guess she decided like she doesn't want to stack, but I don't know. I think if you think about it longer, you end up I feel like you realize if you don't sack now, you won't get another shot. And so White moves the knight and then F2 is going to be well protected and then White has a nice center. Of course, game continues here, but yeah, that was a big chance for Black. Because you see these sacrifices in many different positions, like in the Sicilian, like Rook takes C3 when White is castled queenside. And usually the rule of thumb is like if White is castled over there and you double their pawns, you keep queens on the board, like you just do it. You just do it in most cases because the practical chances outweigh the risks. I think this was kind of like a similar case. But I don't think it was that straightforward to follow up, so it's not like absolute, tragedy or something. But definitely a big miss.
Yeah, now Jules maybe understanding she's been let off the hook. We'll see if she saves the night. I would be shocked if Jules allows this shot a second time in a row.
Yes, that would be very interesting, but surprising.
So, something else, you know, if Jules had just played Queen C2 and allowed it in the first place, something that she's got to be looking at is this c7 pawn. Maybe she just brings her other rook a to c1, right? And say, all right, you're double on the f file. I'm going to double on the c file. Um, I could see that as maybe a potential thought process.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to like what the computer thinks is the top move.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if we're thinking, okay, white has to save this knight, right? Probably a
Yeah,
knight move, but
right.
it's not.
Huh. Yeah, I
White's
was thinking like another move could be queen e2 for white, but
yeah,
basically like allowing black to sag.
yeah, I think queen e2 is also a natural move. You say, okay, well, black's gonna try to win a pawn out of the exchange sack.
Hmm.
So I'm just gonna protect the knight a second time. Uh, but of course, black could still sacrifice there and damage the structure. Uh,
Right.
but the computer's saying the top choice is actually this move e5.
Oh, e5. Okay, hitting the knight on g6.
Yeah, e5 is a
Yeah, sharp
discovery.
stuff.
So if we take, white can take on g6. That's probably a really solid reason why actually Jules put the queen there in the first place.
Maybe that was her idea. Mm. Another reason why black needed to take on f3. So if e5, rook takes f3, then what does white do there? Queen take g6?
That has to be.
Oh, and then h6 is going to hang at the end.
Well, I guess we.
Black's
Oh
rook is
yeah,
under attack.
pawn on e5 prevents us from playing rook f6. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that would be really sharp if that's what Jules goes for. E5 is a nice move.
Yeah, e5 wasn't on my radar, but once you mention it, now it's like, oh, very obvious.
So clear. Yeah, I guess
But maybe Joel spotted this one because she did play queen c2.
if the knight on g6 is a target, you can move it to f4, which is nice. And you're threatening a lot of things there. You're threatening the g2 pawn. You're threatening h3 with check, removing the defender of the knight on f3. And that's another like thought process that Nemo might have in debating sacrificing the exchange or not is, okay, do I need to do this or can I still get an attack without doing it, right? And if you could see that your knight gets to f4, or maybe she wants the knight to retreat and go to d2 or h2, because then that's going to free up black to go like knight h4 and continue the attack that way. And white's also going to be alleviating some pressure and control over these key dark squares in the center, like e5. So okay, we have a move. Jules has just played. I don't think she pushed her pawn. I think she moved the knight. She did. Knight back to h2, and this was the second best choice. And now Nemo can play e5. Shout out to Pravid Dues in the chat, tuning in. Chess Dojo, I'm sure, has fans from all over the world. I've asked this to the viewers during multiple of the rounds so far, but let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm assuming many Americans. This matchup here is Canada versus the U.S. Usually I root for the U.S., but I'm rooting for Nemo today. We're covering this for Nemo, so we're all fans of Nemo here, and I know the Olympics is going on right now, so I'm sure a lot of people are tuning
Mm.
in for that.
You following Olympics?
I'm not. I wish I was. I've been just getting some updates on social media.
Same. Same. Knight f4. Yeah, sorry, I was muted there for a sec, but right. So knight h2. Um, and Jules just doesn't give Nemo a second chance. And yeah, still a complex position. Anything can happen. Black has his pressure on the F file, but definitely like White's chances. Just you have the nice center, you have this pressure on the C file. White's C file is also nice. The question is, can White neutralize Black on the king side in time to put a rook on C1? Maybe just rook a C1 right now.
Yeah, that is a really nice move. Maybe trying to get into C6, which would be annoying. But yeah, knight to F4 played, but it's not hitting with the same threats as if there was a knight on F3.
Mhm.
And yeah, white should not really need to deal with this knight, right? There's no real clear threats. It looks pretty, but it's not doing very much.
Yeah, Black needs to get the queen to G6. Start creating some threats here.
Yeah, that might take a couple of moves, but it's
Not easy.
definitely.
It's not easy. Yeah, exactly.
Um, and yeah, Jules has put herself into over a 30-minute time deficit here. So we've already seen a few mistakes from both players on back-to-back moves, missing an exchange sacrifice that would have been really key to opening up White's king. So we're still very much in this game. You mentioned Rook AC1 looks super solid, and the threat is not to take the C pawn. The C pawn is defended by both queen and rook. I think the idea is you want to get into C6, trying to get a queen trade or capture that A pawn on A6.
I just want my pieces to have a voice in the position, Every piece deserves a voice. I feel like just rook C1, I just want to talk to the C7 pawn, talk to the C6 square as white, and just remind Black that, she has some weaknesses too.
Yeah, getting all the pieces acquainted with each other. That rook on A1 square is the last piece that Jules has not moved. So you want to get everyone involved, and looks like she didn't do it. She's played something else. Whoa, knight back to F1.
Knight F1. Okay. I don't hate it for sure.
Are we
Comfy
going
doesn't
to
seem to
G?
like it.
Yeah, I mean, knight on H2 wasn't the best piece. Uh,
Oh, here's the issue. Knight G5 now. So this knight on H2 actually was kind of important, covering like F3 square. But if Knight G5, Black starts having some annoying pressure here.
Knight G5. That's yeah. Nemo's knight on H7 also maybe looking for a chance to get into the game, and Nemo can show the strong move here. But we were getting a raid from Botez live. Shout out to Hammer and Anna Maya, who've been doing a fantastic job on commentary. Um, would be a very long day for them if they were to cover all four games. This was the most staggered of all the rounds so far. I think they had a round starting at 9:30 and this game started like 3:15. So looks like this is the last game left. Everyone's tuning in for this one. Jules versus Nemo, round 5. Nemo's got 2 points. Jules with 1.5. And yeah, welcome in. I'm Joe, joined by Kostya.
Hello everyone. Welcome, welcome. Congrats to Alex, who won just like a very nice game, I thought, in the King's Indian. I was watching that one before this one, but yeah, great game. So welcome everyone. This game is very interesting. I mean, we had some moments earlier, but now like Knight F1 has just been played. Compy doesn't seem to like it. Um, yeah, we've been feeling Nemo was a little bit on the back foot earlier, but now it's now the initiative might be changing. And Knight G5, yeah, she's quickly played too. I also thought this was kind of the move Black should just make on the king side.
Yeah, and now we're
Uh,
looking at sacrifices on h3. If the g pawn moves, knight to f3 can land with the fork, winning an exchange. E5 is still a strong idea. Again, sacrificing on h3, but this time you can take back with the queen, even threatening some checkmates on g2. There could be some sparks flying. This game could definitely go in Nemo's favor shortly. But maybe for the Raiders, we could go back and look. I don't know, Kostya, if you want to give your review of how the game started.
Sure, sure. Um, well, we go back. It started off as a Rui Lopez, and we had an early D3. So not like the most aggressive setup from either side. This line is typically more strategic. I thought Jules played this one pretty well. She goes for this kind of modern setup with like knight c3 and a3. And eventually Nemo plays this very aggressive plan of bishop g4, knight h7, which I think like wasn't that great. But it kind of works out. We get like bishop e3, and yeah, Jules takes on e7. I think we were thinking there was like something better White could have done there. Goes h3, bishop e6. We get the bishop trade, fe. And then we thought black is kind of fine after fe. White goes c3, rook f7. And or I think knight went to g6. Yeah, then d4. Okay, Nemo takes on d4, cd4. This position after rook f7 looked nice for white because of the nice center. We were feeling like black isn't going to have like totally enough here on the king side. But then Jules goes queen c2, just kind of handing black this chance to play rook takes f3, just like on a silver platter, just like here you go. Rook takes f3, you can have it. And and we were both thinking just immediately like sack the exchange. It's very logical. You get tons of play against the king side. White structure is wrecked. We're like in a blitz game. I think you just do this immediately. But Nemo thought about it for a bit and then goes rook a f8, which I think was a miss. Because that just gives Jules a chance to move her knight, which she ends up doing. And it's just last couple of moves. And then yeah, it's interesting if black gets a second chance here to try and sack something. So she goes knight f4. Then we saw knight f1, which is probably not great. Knight g5. And now black's chances are again looking good because now there's some kind of sacrifice looming, either on h3 or on f3. You got e5 coming. So this is now very scary for white.
Yeah, and you can see every single black piece is playing a role, and White's knight has been hopping around everywhere. Knight to g3, new home for the knight, and this is where the computer is calling for this e5 breakthrough, which is very interesting. It looks like you're weakening f5 a lot, right? e5. If you put the knight into f5, it wants you to just undermine the knight's protection and just play d5. This is really aggressive play in the center, but it looks a lot of fun for black for sure. I'm not sure if we'll see any of that. It all depends if Nemo goes for e5 or not.
Yeah, no, I mean this is like already insane. E5, knight f5, d5. I mean e5 is very interesting, but on e5, I mean the main move I think to consider first would be d takes e5. So the question is how obvious that is for black. So let's say for example we try e5, de, and then here um I would think okay, not so if knight g takes h3, I think that's not so clear because pawn takes, queen takes, white has f3. No, but even that f3, the knight on g3 hangs. Okay, so I think almost everything's winning here for black. You can go takes, you can go knight f3 check, maybe is even stronger. So f3, the knight on g3 hangs. Okay, engine seems to think, I take on f4. Oh, maybe this is not so easy. All right, what else can we
It
do
is a
here?
very strong idea. Does Jules stream? Yes, Jules is she live right now? She should be if she's not. But yeah, Jules has been streaming. Fun fact about Jules, she was a student in college trying to find a local chess club. She found the Collegiate Chess League Discord server, which is how I first got introduced to her. And after talking for a bit, I told her, hey, she should start streaming. And sure enough, she started a Twitch account. This was like 2 or so years ago, and maybe 3 years ago now. Anyways, yeah, now she's like traveling with the Botezes. She's playing this event. She's a rock
So
star.
You're doing. You made Jules.
In a way, I helped influence her. There was actually a blog post, I believe, chess.com sometimes, I guess every month they have a creator of the month. So
Hmm.
Jules was one of the creators of the month. She definitely gave me a shout out in the post. So happy to have helped start Jules' streaming career. But I can't take all the credit, of course. Jules has done a tremendous amount of work on her own to really set herself up, especially on Instagram. She's crushing. I've been watching some of her reels. They're actually hilarious, and I love also reading through the comments. Like the reach that she gets is a huge audience beyond just chess people, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, Jules is a Instagram genius. I've seen her design some reels, and yeah, she's a mastermind how she works. She's on it. Okay, I figured this one out. So we're just considering this guy. This is in the live position. So we're thinking if e5, d takes e5, knight takes g2 here for black. That must be the move.
Yeah, knight takes g2. If king takes, now the queen hops in. This is actually forced mate in two.
Yeah.
But not obvious immediately, and not
What was
even
confusing me on knight takes g2 was white could throw in bishop takes g5, but then I realized we were taking on e1 with a fat tempo on the queen.
nice.
Maybe there's something better, but
That even
I
took
think
me a second.
that's good enough.
It once queen takes h3 at first,
Queen
even.
h3, okay, is maybe even just okay, even stronger. Okay, Queen h3 is insane because it's like the bishop's under attack, bishop moves, you get knight
Oh
h4.
man. Oh my goodness. Um,
Crazy.
well,
So all this to say, e5 is not the most obvious move for black because I mean on DE you kind of have to see one of these winning lines, which is not so easy.
yeah, if d takes and if you take back, knight f5 is a great way to clog the position. Um, you
Right.
could maybe take on e4, but then there's knight takes h6. It gets
And
messy.
Nemo did something else. I think she just slid over Queen e7. So yeah, if you don't see the potential after e5, then Queen e7 is more logical, just kind of like bringing the queen. She's getting closer to this magic g6 square. Like now black has Queen f6, Queen g6 coming up, and then the attack continues.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing to help you find this e5 pawn break is the discovery on h3 and just knowing your queen and your two knights are coordinating super well on the light squares, and that there's definitely something to look forward to there. I think Nemo is also trying to keep Jules pressured on the clock. You see Nemo
Mm-hmm.
arms crossed, leaning back in the chair. Um, I mean, that's definitely got to get into Jules' mind a little bit, thinking like, oh my gosh, my clock, I'm almost at half my opponent's time, and we're on move 22. We still have 18 moves to make before the 40 move mark, and I get the extra 30 minutes back. Like, even though the position is still fairly even, Jules is definitely feeling some pressure.
Yeah, no, definitely not easy position for white. I mean, Engine gives Queen e7 as like mistake. I think that's kind of harsh. I think I'm just saying that because like e5 was a better move for black, but I think Queen e7 is very normal here. E5, like you had to see all the tactics, which really not that obvious. Um, and from White's point of view, I mean, these sacrifices are still looming. Like Black has knight h3, knight f3 in every position, so it's not like you can just keep blitzing out your moves. Like you have to make some tough choices here. Because you give Black like two moves, you put the queen on g6, and yeah, something bad is going to happen to White's king side. Um, so what could be Jules's next move here?
I mean,
Maybe a4, maybe like trying to open up the rook.
yeah, I'm still thinking she needs to get the other rook into the game, right? Nemo's playing everything on the king side. Jules can't just let Nemo walk all over her on that board. So um, something that she could do is bring the rook to the c file, put pressure to a4, like you said, trying to get some distraction on the queen side and say, Nemo, like, there's two sides of the board. You can't just completely put everything on the king side. And then Nemo could double down and say, I totally can do that, and just completely go for checkmate, sacrifice all my knights and get the rooks in, the queen in, and just crush you over there. Um, and there's also the idea it's saying to play a defensive move, rook f1, try to put some more pieces near your king. I
Mm.
think it's probably a little too passive.
Yeah.
Maybe a pawn push in the center. I mean, we've been mentioning e5 for black, but maybe e5 for white is a good idea, right? It immediately stops queen f6 for one, and just kind of clogs black's position a little bit.
Yeah, I think rook AC1 definitely very logical. Rook F1 doesn't feel like the move you want to play. And E5, I don't know. E5 is kind of interesting. It's also a bit anti-positional because you're putting the pawns on the same color as your bishop.
Yeah, we had a comment in chat saying Nemo's got some socks on, and usually maybe that's not something you would expect to see in a Twitch chat, people caring about that sort of thing. But if you've been watching every single round, Nemo has been completely barefoot playing in this tournament. So having socks on is, I guess, something of note. She's changed it up a little bit here. But yeah, it's funny, Kostya. It's a completely FIDE rated event. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to play without socks or shoes on, but Nemo took full advantage of it.
In fact, I just recently played in a tournament where I was playing in socks for most of it. And the reason was, I mean, it was a normal tournament. It was in Valencia, Spain, open tournament. The reason was because we were just playing in this room. It was at the University of Valencia. And the room just happened to have this kind of like gym floor or something where my shoes, I wear these like normal Skechers, were just so squeaky walking on this floor. And lots of people had squeaky shoes. I wasn't the only one with like really squeaky shoes, but it was just like comically squeaky. Like I'm wearing like clown shoes or something. Like I can't even sit still without making noise. Like the shoes are so squeaky. So I had to, and no one gave me any dirty looks. I could have kept the shoes on, but I like walking around when I'm playing OTB. I make a move. I play quickly, and yeah, I like to walk around. It's just like I just didn't want to do it to all my neighbors, just like squeaky. So I took my shoes out. I just played in my socks, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. No one gave me a problem with it.
Yeah, I've definitely seen or heard of FIDE giving players a hard time. In particular, maybe one of the commentators for Botez Live, Anna Maya, I know
Mm-hmm.
had something go down with her shoes that she was wearing at one point. But okay, there was another
Yeah.
idea that we didn't really discuss that much, that Jules ended up playing. Bishop takes on f4, and this was something I was considering. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, giving up the bishop for the knight, but it was a very strong knight on f4, definitely. So Jules takes, and then she plays rook to e2, and helping
Mm-hmm.
support the f pawn, offer some defense here.
Yeah, I think this is very logical from Jules. It might not be the most ambitious thing she could have done to give up the bishop, but like I feel like White's point here is that okay, I'm overprotecting f2. You still have a weakness on c7 and on a6, and White has the center. Black's pieces look nice, so I feel like Black is totally fine here. Like she has good activity. But a lot of pieces are traded off, and so just like the character of the game, I feel like the way this has been going, like Nemo's like looking for a sacrifice, she's looking for the attack. Now there's not a lot of material on the board, so she might start taking risk trying to create some chances. Um, so it's still a very double-edged position here because I think Black is fine, but you can't just start like going crazy on the king side because you might lose on the queen side.
Yeah, and
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
speaking of the queen side, one of the top choices is actually the move c5, which looks to get a 3-on-2 majority on the outside, which is a great way for Nemo to play on both sides of the board. So yeah, that trade takes some heat out of the position for sure, less material, especially around White's king, so it might be harder for Nemo to get an attack going or to continue her attack. Someone asked if this game is already going to a draw. It is very far from that. We've already seen perhaps a couple mistakes or misses from both sides, and they're not even really in time pressure yet. So I'm expecting there to be a stage where both players start to get low on the clock, and someone's probably going to make a breakthrough or a bigger mistake at that point. But right now, it's a very even position. The odds of them following that probably pretty low. So long way to go here before we see any sort of results or one side getting favored over the other. Although in any move, someone could totally mess up here.
Yeah, I think the game will heat up at some point, especially as the clocks get lower if pieces stay on the board. C5, I'm very surprised by. It kind of makes sense once you mention it, but it's C5 optically looks weird because if white takes on C5, then you kind of leave your E6 pawn behind. But I guess it's not that easy for white to really attack it, so it kind of works out for black. But yeah, I'd be really surprised by C5 if Nemo plays it. That would be an impressive move. That would be a very impressive move.
Yeah, I think I can justify it a little bit more because when the bishop was on the board, the bishop was also supporting c5. So now that it's traded off, white lost a little bit of control. And also, when Nemo takes back with the rook's no longer in the f7 square, which is all offering some defense over c7. If white ever goes rook c1, doubling up on the c file, it's going to be harder to play c5. So c5 right now could be very timely.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, probably that would be a surprising move. Another one that we've been talking about is e5, taking space in the center, fighting for some key squares. Another one is, I think, probably one of the more logical choices is bring the queen still further into the king position. So we were mentioning queen f6 earlier. That would drop the c pawn, but maybe queen f7 is a strong idea, trying to get again to g6.
Right. Yeah. I feel like black is looking at the king side here. Queen f7, queen g6, some h5, h4 ideas. Someone's wondering if the camera is frozen.
I can't
And
tell.
honestly, I can't tell either. That's so funny. I feel like the clock is moving in the background. Yeah. So I think Nemo's just in full focus here. We're
Actually,
watching the flow state, which is very cool to witness.
I can't see the clock. I mean, the clock on the chess.com boards, I think she's definitely frozen. I think it's frozen. But yeah, usually we've had some
Oh
or
yeah, nah,
some
it is
some
frozen.
camera problems on previous streams, but usually the camera has gone completely blackout instead of getting frozen. So this is a new issue that I haven't experienced so far in this tournament.
I think she's just getting deep into the position. Yeah, I mean the clock is ticking, and
You're in trouble when your opponent pauses time to think. That's pretty rough.
she's locked in.
But yeah, let me see if I can reach out and ask someone for some help. But honestly, it's better than having the cameras go completely black because it looks, if no one mentioned it, we could all just pretend. We could all just pretend. But the board should be updated. If a move comes in, we'll see the board update.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the chess.com clock is still ticking, so she hasn't moved yet, so for all we know, she's still in the same pose. Uh, and yeah, just still evaluating her choices. You know, might not be factually correct, but the spirit of what the camera is showing is there.
Shout out to Dirkia. Good to see you in the chat. Uh, Barbuff asks, how do you enjoy commentating? I actually really enjoy commentating. It's one of my favorite things to do. Wow, she's played c5.
Wow.
Nemo
Wow.
showing full board awareness.
And I'm seeing that Jules's camera is working. Okay, so it's not a problem with the space-time continuum. It's just the tech thing.
That's good. That's relieving.
Yeah. God. C5 though, very nice move from Nemo. See, she was locked in, folks. She was focused, and she found honestly a pretty nice move because otherwise maybe White gets Queen C6. Yeah, could be under pressure.
Shout out to Jules channel. Maybe they could let us borrow their cam. Who knows? There's a lot of cameras at this house.
Yeah, don't you got your boy from chess.com? Maybe he can fix something.
Maybe.
Waiting on a move from Jules. So the time pressure I think will be real for Jules here because now it's like, okay, down to 30 minutes and still got to make some moves before the time control. Let's see where we're at. We're on move 24. So yeah, 16 more moves here. You got a couple minutes per move, so you can't let all your time run down. And she's got to deal with the C5 thing. I'm imagining you just take as white. I don't really... Not sure you want to let black take on... Maybe rook d1. Maybe that's okay.
I might have to troubleshoot some things to fix the camera, but it seems like we have some alternatives. Sorry, Sesh Beats. I'm trying to fix the frozen camera, so. But you know,
Yeah, all good.
luckily we have the one and only international master Kostya at the helm with his master level commentary holding down the fort. Yeah, Razum saying call Vila. Definitely a good idea. Also, shout out to Amadeus Burrito. Good to see him.
Nice. Yeah, I'm happy to just keep making things up about the position. That's no problem. Oh, I heard a capture, so I'm gonna guess DC was played. Yeah, and I think Nemo's gonna recapture this one pretty quickly. Yep. And then White's next move here. Now White has a lot of options. Rook D1, Rook C1. You gotta think about this a little bit as White because Black is gonna play C4, so the Rook on C1 I don't think is gonna be doing a whole lot here. Rook D1 feels like the most natural, just putting the Rook on the open file. And yeah, actually very double-edged structure. Who knows what happens here. Now White's knight on G3 doesn't feel super hot because of the pawn on E6. Maybe the knight on G5 tries to relocate itself like to E5, D3 one day. So yeah, it's going to be complicated position. Reminds me of like some classic Capablanca games, like Marshall Capablanca, Capablanca Alekhine, Alekhine Marshall, Marshall Rubinstein, Alekhine Rubinstein, Rubinstein Capablanca, Capablanca Rubinstein. You got all these different structures they would play, and you would get some very interesting games. Okay, we have a move Rook D1. Yep. Yeah, I mean Joel's playing very, very solid in this one. Um, Now it'll be up to Nemo to think about how she wants to proceed from here.
Web of the Fab saying, Joe, you're also master. Let's not disrespect any masters. I'm not there yet.
Master streamer.
I don't think they've given out that title
Oh, it's not
uh
a thing yet.
for I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I guess we're gonna test my streamer skills because the suggestion I'm getting is to basically turn it off and turn it back on again. That was something that I didn't think of. Uh, yeah, I
Oh
guess we're
yeah,
gonna
that's a
try
classic.
that.
Yeah.
Master of Beauty, it's too kind. All right, well, I guess we can try it.
Yeah. In terms of the game, maybe C4 now from black, just to get that pawn out there. Um, thing I'm worried about for black is that the position is opening up a bit, and our pieces are all on the king side. But we might need to start playing on the queen side here, which is not so easy to transfer over. So Nemo's taking some time here. Now it really feels like black's move isn't obvious, but there's c4, there's rook c8. Maybe you can think about like knight f7 to e5.
Well, looks like we got something here.
Oh, uh, wow. We have
We got the camera back, folks.
we got footage. Nice. I saw Nemo reaching for something. She's reaching. She's got to move. And she's pulled back.
How much, when you play, do you feel like you look at your opponent's body language? How much does that help you?
I look at the opponent quite a bit. Not like I try to like stare at them or make eye contact. Some players do. It's kind of annoying. But I do try to read them. I do try to get a sense of where they're at. Because I feel like you can tell a lot. You can definitely get a sense of what they're thinking about and how much they like their position and yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Sorry, had to mute their audio. Essentially, just completely added it again. So there you have
Oh,
it.
interesting. Is their camera loud?
You can hear like if it's not muted, you can hear into the player. So like at the end of the game, we'll listen in. Um,
Oh, cool.
so yeah, c5 was played, capture. Now rook to d1, taking the completely open file for white, and it still looks like it's a pretty even position. I guess Nemo can continue with the c pawn c4, taking more
Hmm.
space on the queen side. I'm wondering if queen f6 has any merit to it, although I guess you're going to get forked on h5, so that's not great.
Yeah. Queen f6, you'd have to worry about knight h5 and then the c pawn as well. C4 is certainly very logical, just so you don't have to worry about this pawn. But on c4, question immediately would be like b3. What do you do on b3? Because you don't
b3, I'm going to take on a3, I think.
take on a3. Okay, white takes on c4.
And then I can like push b4 maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. That's sharp. Maybe even rook c8 for black. Could be a thing. So that feels okay for black. Like c4, b3, queen a3. Takes rook c8.
Someone's asking to sack the queen, or sorry, sack the knight and go queen to g5. It might be
How
too
about you
much.
sack your knight?
Yeah, that's
No, I'm just kidding.
one of my favorite things of commentating is that I can sack my my well, I can sack the players' pieces. They're not my pieces anymore. And that's the thing is like we can say, "Oh, rook takes f3 immediately." Go for it, right? But once you're the player in that position, it's a lot harder to give up your pieces, right? Knowing that it could backfire if it doesn't work out.
Oh, absolutely. Way easier to sack someone else's pieces. Um, but no, I think the issue here is that just because there's not a lot of follow-up pieces, like we've already traded off a lot of material. So if we give up our only knight, then it's hard to generate enough with the queen and rooks. So you'd really have to like open up white's king in order to make it work.
CL Smith is saying you could play e5 to free up the e6 square for your knight. Yeah, knight on d4 looks really pretty, but when you push the e pawn, you're allowing their knight, to f5, which
Yeah.
comes with a tempo. It's very annoying, and it also guards that d4 square.
Yeah, e5 I would really hesitate because knight f5, you're just kind of allowing white's knight in. Um, yeah, one thing I would really try to make work is like knight f7, try to get the knight to e5. So I feel like that would be a beautiful square, and then the queen could maybe even come to g5. So I'm wondering if there's a drawback to knight f7, knight e5, then c4, queen g5, knight d3. Um, Everything kind of feels like it can coordinate.
Did I hear about the 100K bounty for new GMs? Yeah, I believe is it Jeannie from St. Louis Chess Club, Rex
Hmm.
Field's wife, is offering $100,000 for the next five women to make the next five American women to make GM, and one of them has already been awarded to Arena Crush, who I think got the GM title back in 2013. So I think the next four American women to make GM are going to get $100,000 each, which is not too bad. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Actually, I'm wearing the shirt from this event, the Karen's Cup, where they announced this new grant, and it's super exciting. In fact, I think it might even just be five. I think they might have just given one to Irina as as just a gesture of goodwill for all that she's accomplished. Um, and yeah, I mean it's a huge prize because now I mean, you already had a bunch of motivated women and girls going for the title, but now it's like a even bigger motivation. But obviously you got Alice Lee, and then I don't know if you were following the U.S. juniors, but Rose Atwell, she also did really well. So she seems like a candidate for the prize. And oh, knight f7 on the board. Look at that. Look at that. It might not be the best move, but like we can totally understand this move. Nemo, I think, wants to put the knight on e5, and then maybe even queen g5.
Yeah, knight f7 frees up a lot of ideas. Queen g5 is one of them. Knight e5 is another one of them. And you said it might not be the best move. Well, the computer said it was the second best move, the best being c4.
Yeah, c4 still on the table. Oh, I see Biophil in the chat saying that Jennifer Yu said that she'll be going for the prize. Yeah, that's awesome to hear because there's okay a number of women a little bit older, but yeah, like Carissa Yip is not that far off. Jennifer Yu, I think could totally see her doing it. Um, so that's uh that's great. That's great. That makes US chess very exciting.
Yeah, Jennifer I think, is still trying to get her international master title. She's got all the norms for it. She just needs the rating. And Jennifer, I think, is finishing up her last year at Harvard. So she's been super busy with that. But this event, I think, has been really fun for her. Obviously, she's leading the pack, which is always nice. But also, I think she's very interested not only playing more chess, but also in content creation in general. I believe she's been streaming these games on her channel. Shout out to IMGNU. And she's also planning on making some YouTube videos. So definitely keep an eye out for her. I mean, all these players are doing great stuff in content. I think one of the lesser known players out of this event in the chess world, to my knowledge, is Linda, who is actually making a career in music. But she also made a Twitch account, and she's obviously a strong chess player. 1.5 points so far, tied with Jules. And yeah, it's cool to see a lot of support for women chess events. And huge shout out, of course, to Jeannie Kieran. It's cool to see that you're repping their merch, and it's really cool to see how much the St. Louis Chess Club is really supporting not only women's chess but just all the chess events. So it's really cool to see that also these girls are making chess a viable career for themselves too.
Yeah, for sure. I think St. Louis gets a lot of credit because they run some very nice events for women. Um, and yeah, it's great that there's now like a lot more opportunities. This tournament definitely brilliant because like this thing with streamers traveling to open events is kind of new. Where players they play open events, they like sit at a table, they stream their games, and it's very cool when you have like a streamer play against another streamer, which happens sometimes randomly. So yeah, why not just like run your own tournament? And you guarantee streamer versus streamer matchups every round. And I mean, the fans the fans will love it. I mean, they want to see like their favorite people play against each other. I think it's very cool.
Yeah, so if the Chess Dojo did their own version, I mean, you got three of the players already. You yourself,
True.
David, and Jesse. You just need to invite five more.
Yeah, but David and Jesse, okay, they're parents, so they're very
Ah, it's
hard
hard.
to get a hold of. Yeah, it would have to be all online. Um, but definitely we'll take some inspiration, I think, from this event.
Speaking of parents, I think I just saw a pop-up Botez sighting walking in the background there.
Nice.
He's also looking pretty comfy, but yeah, for those that don't know, Papa Botez is the arbiter of this event. So yeah, not only the Botez is organizing, but also arbitering, if that's the word for it.
Right. Yeah.
Arbiting. It's
Arbiting. Yes. Yes.
arbitrating.
Arbiting.
Well, yeah, English is not my best language. It is my only language. Typical American. Anyways, yeah, Jules deep in thought. She's under 30 minutes. Nemo's just under an hour. And we're on move 26. So still 14 moves before we make time control. Obviously, knight f7 with a clear idea of going to e5 or going queen to g5. Someone said white should play e5. That prevents the knight from going there. But pawns they uh, they don't go backwards, so you're conceding some control there. It's possible that yes, you prevent the knight going to e5 immediately, but still queen g5 is a strong idea. You're also attacking that e pawn again, or you don't want to give up the c5 pawn right away, so still black can play that c4 move.
Yeah, e5 is kind of like a strategically risky move, but from White's point of view, I would be really hard pressed to allow black to play knight e5. I would kind of want to play it. And you create an e4 square for your own knight. It looks like Jules was rook d2.
Something the engine didn't like after e5 is that you allow black to play rook c4, hitting this queen. And yeah, Jules does not play e5. She brings the rooks both to the d file to double up, maybe hoping to get to d7, but knight e5 is going to become that much more natural, right? You're guarding the d7
Yeah.
square, you're blocking the e pawn. You're also now in checking distance, um, which would come with a fork if allowed. So yeah, this is kind of annoying. Knight e5, but I'm not sure if there's like a clear threat exactly. Maybe you're gonna get to c4 still and allow rook d7, but you're gonna bring the queen into the game.
No, I mean I love this for black. Now you like your knight covers d7. So your knight is like neutralizing white's two rooks that have no entry square. I think the idea is to just play c4 with the pawn, and then eventually you might have knight d3. And just kind of taking over the whole board. And then like queen, we still have our queen to g5 and h5, h4. And no, this could be very unpleasant for white. Like queen g5 is possible now. Okay, there's a nice trick. Eric Rosen would go queen g5 and then be like, "Oh no, my pawn on c5." Because if white takes, there's knight f3 check.
Ah, defending. Yeah, we're defending the pawn laterally with an x-ray through the knight. We'd have a discovery there. Nice idea.
Yeah,
No, I loved your
but even if you
idea
didn't have this,
c4.
c4 anyway.
Yeah, knight
Hmm.
d3. That knight on d3 is gonna basically just ask the rooks what they're doing there. Um, and also, the knight on d3 would also be putting pressure on f2, which is already a sensitive square. And you don't really want to push that pawn because then you really weaken your dark squares. So beautiful knight on e5. But yeah, it really makes you think like what else could white have done, right?
Well, that's why I was thinking you kind of had to go e5 as white. At least I was thinking that's the main move. Um, to prevent the knight from getting this square.
So it looks like they wanted queen c3.
Queen c3 also logical, just stopping knight e5 for the moment. But it's a little computery because it feels like okay, black will go queen g5 and then knight e5 comes anyway.
Yeah. And so we see Nemo's putting Jules through the test, and she's getting some good moves in. Jules is gonna have to deal with this knight now on e5. She didn't prevent that from happening. Uh, but now, can she prevent the knight further, or is Nemo gonna walk all over the board with c4 and plant that knight on d3?
Right.
So
Yeah, it could get ugly in a couple moves here.
Jules needs an
For white.
attacking move, something
Hmm.
aggressive. She can't let Nemo keep doing her thing.
Yeah, Jules needs like a really good move, like right now. I don't know if anyone has one available.
So you want to
Uh,
look at the attacking moves.
hmm
Also, like if yeah, here's one for example: knight to h5. This is one of the top choices. This was actually the top choice,
Oh,
attacking the
played.
rook. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So the rook has to move. Probably, uh, well, you can't go to f5. You can't go to f6. So you're either going to f7. You can't go to g4 or f3. You can't take on f2. You can't take on e4. So this really narrows you down to either f7 or h4.
Hmm.
If you're not looking to move the rook, you're looking for a stronger counter punch, which I'm just not seeing. So, yeah. Nemo's
It's
got
like rook h4
two
would be
choices.
the first move.
Yeah.
Kind of think about.
So if you're weighing these two rook moves, f7 helps guard the seventh rank, but h4 comes with a tempo on the knight. So that might be more enticing. If you attack the knight, then the knight either has to move back to g3, or you have to defend the knight, which you could only do by playing g4, I guess, which you don't really want to do.
Yeah, on rook h4, I feel like white is just going back with knight to g3.
Yeah. So
And then
essentially,
white's going to argue like the rook on h4 isn't that well placed.
yeah, knight on h4 is worse off than the knight or the rook on f4. But Nemo still retains the move after knight g3 back.
Hmm.
So then she can continue with her plan c4, knight d3.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I feel like black doesn't really lose much. Like basically white manages to just kind of keep the position steady for a couple moves, but black is still kind of in the driver's seat. Rook f7, I mean, I don't really see the issue with rook f7. Maybe there's an f4 idea for white. I just saw someone pointing out, but feel like black is okay there. I mean, at least okay, but it is a good point. I don't know if we want to allow this for white, the f4 idea, before we have a chance to put our knight on d3.
We've got some exciting ideas put in the chat. Um, Knight f3 check followed by queen g5. The problem is queen g5, the knight can just go back to g3 after that check. But yeah, you could start with queen g5, right? But okay, rook h4, I think just the cleanest, simplest response. Not overcomplicating things, keeping the initiative, um, knowing that okay, I'm saved my rook with the counterpunch. Knight has to go back, and then I just calmly continue with my plan. C4 knight d3. C4 knight d3 is just too pretty. Um, a lot of people looking for sacrifices there that just aren't working out. So again, this is a moment where you don't have to rush into things. You know your position's better, so you don't want to throw it away. This just is the calmest, cleanest response.
Yeah, yeah. If c4 knight d3, white is basically going to have to give up the exchange at some point, which will be very tough. So we'll see if Jules can come up with anything here. I don't really see a move for white other than knight back to g3.
And that was played really quickly.
Fine.
Jules is definitely liking the fast moves if she can get some responses and quick because she is down on time.
Yeah, needs to get to that time control.
Yeah, that was move 29, so just over 10
Hmm.
moves left to make. She's got 24 minutes to do it. Nemo just over 50 minutes left.
So yeah, c4 definitely a very easy move for black to make. Queen g5 seems totally reasonable as well. Um, you would look for sacrifices like knight f3, rook takes h3, and I'm looking at them, but I don't think they're working, so not much to mention there. Nemo's, yeah, I feel like she wants to put some pressure on the clock here. You don't really have to. You have a nice position, so you can definitely take your time, but I don't really see a reason not to play c4.
Yeah, c4 top choice by far.
And on c4, you also get a nice square on c5 for the queen. So c4, queen c5, and then rook back to f4. You're hitting f2.
It's all coming
So
together.
yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I mentioned earlier, this position looks a lot like the games of like Capablanca and Alekhine, like the classic players, because they would just kind of get their plans on the board, and yeah, they're able to like take the time to put all their pieces on their best squares. So c4 played.
Explosive.
Nemo playing well. Mm-hmm.
C4 on the board. Someone's asking, what if B3? B3 is a great idea, right? You're trying to immediately contest
Yeah.
this pawn. This pawn has just entered white's half of the board. It is invading your space, so you want to immediately contest it. B3, fantastic idea. If that were to happen, well, we still have a lot of our same ideas, right? Queen C5. I don't know if you want to rush into knight D3, but you could also bring the rook back to H or F4. Um, so B3 is definitely
Yeah,
a
the
top
issue
choice.
with B3 is that it leaves the 8 pawn very weak. So B3, for example, black could play rook C8, and then the 8 pawn is a problem. Um, there's probably other moves too. Like on B3, I feel like you could also take on A3 with the queen.
Take
I don't
immediately,
really see
yeah.
what's so bad about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and if takes, like we can always take back with something on C4. The top choice is queen to C3, attacking the knight. Of course, we still have knight D3. But you do have to worry because remember what our knight was doing on E5. We're keeping these knights, I guess, out. But okay, knight D3 blocks that. So, um, because yeah, queen C3. The computer doesn't even want knight D3. It's calling for queen to G5.
Yeah. I mean, black has this nice grip. So queen G5 is this nice move. You can just because knight D3 is not going anywhere, so you can just kind of sit on it. And yeah, it makes sense to bring the queen. You put your rook back on F4, H5 again, H4.
Yeah, pleasant position for black.
Very, very pleasant.
Lots of ideas. Um, I guess if you go like queen C3, knight D3, maybe then you can play this this B3 idea. But I mean, still, I guess you have queen takes on A3.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's tough for white. Jules is thinking 21 minutes now. Not a lot of time. It's very instructive how white controls the D file, but black has the entry square on D7 covered. D8 is covered. You could play rook D6. Maybe we should look at rook D6 because at least that's an active move.
Yeah, rook
But it leaves
D6 attacking some
F2
pawns.
behind. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, F2 becomes weak. Oh, we have some moves coming in. Queen C3 played, top move.
Wow.
Okay. So yeah, it is saying
Jules
knight
fish, huh?
D3. Jules, she's putting up her defense. Someone's saying that Jennifer needs two more 2250 performance storms to make WIM title, but she already has WGM title, so I don't know if that's accurate or how that works.
Right. Probably not. I think she's probably good on
The
the
WIM
WIM title.
title.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know you could skip titles,
Right.
uh, but yeah, I was commentating with oh, we see Dina walking in with her sunglasses.
Hmm.
Is she trying to film some more content? Maybe she's gonna go out. Yeah, these players are trying to play their games earlier. So this game was still at the normal time, but after this, I think games are gonna be played earlier and finish earlier. But yeah, it's got to be tough for Nemo. Literally 5 rounds in a row, all 5 rounds. She's had the last game left. So you see all your friends kind of finish early and go off and do whatever. She has to stay in and play chess. Shout out to Botez live in the chat. Good to see you. But yeah, I was commentating with Ben Feingold and I learned like he was saying it's hard to have multiple titles. Like Nemo and Jennifer, you both have FM titles and WGM titles. And I was thinking like this whole time, once you get GM, like you still have all your other titles. Like you are both an IM and an FM and an NM. And he's like, no, I'm just a GM. So he's like, once I made GM, I lost all my other titles. And I'm sure it's like maybe not that serious, but
Yeah, because they just don't really.
they don't
I guess
stack.
they just don't matter anymore. Yeah, I mean, it's like once you're a certain age, right? Let's say you're 25 years old. It's like, okay, technically you're also 22 at one point, but now you're 25 now. It's, those times are long gone.
Shout out to Justin
93.
for gifting to the Botez live. Um, Botez live asking for a clip of the Nemo rant. I might have missed it. I'm not sure. But yeah, knight d3 played. I mean, look at that thing. That's the best piece on the board.
Yeah, no, this game's definitely going Nemo's way on the board, on the clock. It's yeah, kind of tough for Jules here.
Now,
I have a feeling she's gonna sack this exchange sooner rather than later because you can't really tolerate this knight on d3 for very long.
yeah, we were mentioning Nemo had a chance to sack an exchange on f3, and didn't do it. But here, Jules might not like this knight on this beautiful outpost on d3. This might be intolerable. So we could see the exchange coming from Jules here, giving up a rook for a knight and a pawn. Nemo would be okay with that. I mean, she went into this understanding that could be a possibility, but I think that that's getting to an end game that she would prefer.
Is that another chess.com? I see another guy with the camera getting very close to the players.
No,
He's really
those are part of the Botez YouTube production team. So yeah, they were, I guess, hired for this event to help make YouTube videos. So be sure to follow the Botez Live YouTube because you're gonna see some content put out there. Nemo's also been filming for vlogs. If you want to check out Nemo's YouTube, you won't want to miss it. Also Jules as well. I mean, all these players are filming tons of stuff, but you see that guy's got a really fancy camera there. They also have like drone footage. They had a drone that they were using. I can't wait to see the
wow.
YouTube videos. They're gonna look very professionally done.
Yeah, the clips from this event have been great. Like the trash talk, the previews, it's all been wonderful. I mean, okay, the trash talk is funny because it's like clear everyone's friends with each other. So, sometimes it can be a little hard to believe, but yeah, I feel like the hype has definitely been there for this event.
Okay, so we have a move on the
Geo
board.
drops. A4. Yeah, so A4 actually I was thinking about this move. It's very natural, like you're just trying to because we were trying to play B3 for white, and then this A pawn was always hanging. So we go A4, but yeah, Queen C5, that's like the move with the hand. And it might not have been the best move according to Compy, but that's the move like that was definitely the move that was coming to mind just to take control, push B4. But let's go back a sec. I'm just curious, what did Black have that was just so much stronger?
So
The engine just
there's two ideas that it likes better. Queen c5 is the third best. The top choice is bring the rook back to f4, doubling on the f file. And the second best, it's saying queen a7, which
Queen A7.
gets on the same diagonal. I don't see how it's. I mean, wait, if you go. I guess there's no rook takes d3 because we take on f2.
But that's the same thing with Queen C5. So Queen C5 also, at
Yeah.
first glance, Rook takes D3 is a problem, but you still have Queen takes F2 with check.
Hmm. So Queen c5. Oh, there's a crazy idea.
I yeah, I'm wondering if queen c5 can white take on d3? Allow queen f2
Not
check, go king
not
h2?
immediately. It wants an interference tactic.
Interference tactic. Hmm. Queen c5.
So here's what we're
See.
looking at, guys. Queen c5 and queen a7 both get on this diagonal, pointing right at f2 and the white king. What's weird about queen c5 is that we put our queens opposite each other, and that means our c pawn is pinned to the knight, because if rook takes knight, pawn takes, their queen can take our queen, right? Now, the thing about the rook is that you can't take on d3 right away because the rook is also defending f2. So queen c5, if rook takes d3, then we take on f2 with check. The king has to move, and then we can take back the rook. Now, the problem with queen c5 versus queen to a7 is that white has an intermezzo move before taking on d3 that makes queen takes f2 not possible. I'm gonna
So
let
queen c5, knight f5, huh?
Yeah, knight f5
That's
is
the
the
idea.
move. Knight
Yeah.
f5 saying, okay, I'm gonna take your knight, and you don't have queen f2 anymore because it cut off the rook from the f file. So if you play knight f5 and black says, I'm going to take, that's when white takes. And what that does is you trade off material, which lessens black's attack on your king. If you go queen a7, there's no knight f5 idea because, I mean, I'll just simply take that, thank you. And you're not going to take the knight because, well, my pawn's not pinned. My queen's over on a7 now. So uh, yeah, I'm not expecting knight f5 from Jules. That would be definitely Jules fish.
Yeah, it's not the craziest move. I mean, because f2 is hanging, and what else are you gonna do? It's interesting actually. Nemo made this queen c5 move actually very quick, and oh b4 from Jules, which is a move, but like yeah, it gives black a chance now to get the queen off of the file. Now Nemo can put the queen on a7 if she wants. Okay, you can also just take this pawn like knight b4, I think. Um, but there is a trick here. If queen takes b4, then white has rook takes d3. So it's kind of in white's favor.
Well, Kostya, let's not forget we can play en passant. It's forced.
Uh, oh, it's forced, excuse me.
Yeah.
En passant, I don't love.
Jules finding the best. Yeah, no. No. So there's a couple things wrong with b4, and we're really letting this pawn on c4 hang out, right? So that's now a connected pass pawn. That's going to be a
Yeah.
long-term advantage for sure. So Jules letting up a lot of pressure, tension, and also yeah, missing knight f5. That's not an easy move to find. I mean, if you could see, this threat on f2 and see this tactic on d3, then you could find knight f5. But it's not an easy move to make for sure. And also, like, when your opponent is attacking you and you're going into these complications and these trades, especially when you're down on the clock, it takes a lot of confidence to go into something like that and think that you can get out on top. And it wasn't even favoring white at that point. It was saying that was um, still in black's favor. It was just
Yeah, it's not
less
like
good.
white saves the game. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just right, most kind of stubborn defense. Yeah, I mean, I think the key moment here was just allowing black to get this knight e5. I think once Nemo gets that, it's just a very nice grip. Now there might be like some tactics, yeah, both players miss, but I feel like that's really when the trend of the game starts to shift in black's favor. It's still far from over, but it does look very nice now because like okay, queen b6, Nemo just played. I think Jules might play a5 just like because why not, and then queen a7,
Oh,
and then f2 is still a big problem
yeah.
uh,
If Jules
for
goes
white.
a5, we're forcing the queen to a7 where it should have gone to begin with, but completely alleviating the queenside pawns of any pressure. Instead, we see just simply rook f1.
Yeah, rook
Um,
f1.
and now probably we double the rooks again.
Rook f4 looks good. Yeah. I guess the question is rook f4, and then, yeah, now we're threatening to take on f2 3 times. And if white tries to defend with queen c2, that drops the b pawn with tempo. I think black happily snags that one. You could go rook f4, knight h1 as a last ditch effort, last kind of measure to defend this guy, but obviously that's not ideal, and black should be very happy in that position.
Yeah, knight h1 is a sad move to make. Ultra defensive knight in the absolute corner of the board. And
Yeah, anyway, e pawn hangs. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Now
tough, tough.
there is a another idea. Remember the last time the rook was on f4? What did Jules do?
She went knight h5.
Yeah, knight h5 attacking that rook, and yeah, we crashed through maybe on f2, but we also have to remind ourselves that Jules has a threat of her own after knight h5, not
Mm-hmm.
just hitting the rook, but attacking g7.
That's a good point. Good point.
So Nemo could blunder mate in two.
Yeah. Crazier things have happened. Um, you're playing this chess game, you see all your friends are about to go to the beach, you want to join them, you play some quick moves, and that's it. You you hang the game.
So I'm
Yeah,
winning that f
you
pawn.
gotta stay focused here. Um, but
So,
maybe rook f4, knight h5, just
ooh,
rook f7, patient, and
she goes e5. Now,
e5.
this blocks the queen on the long diagonal, but it also gives up f5 as a square.
Yeah.
Uh, but okay, the
Allowing knight f5.
knight probably doesn't go there immediately because there's, like you said, that pawn is hanging. Rook takes e4.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, computer says this is a mistake. So uh, I'm curious though, like if you go rook f4 instead and then knight h5, obviously that's a fork on the rook and the mating square on g7. Do you just have to bring the rook back down to f7 and
Mm-hmm.
you're just gonna say, okay, well the knight's gonna not gonna be there forever. I'm gonna, I don't know, kick your knight away, and then I'm gonna crash through on f2. I guess the position required a little bit more patience from Nemo. She didn't like this queen, so she cuts it off, but this perhaps gives up some really important light squares in the position.
Yeah, exactly. I think just bringing the rook back to f7, and then you can play e5 later when white's knight isn't threatening to go to f5. And yeah, then the threat on f2 would still be there. So this, I mean, this kind of hinges on whether white has some tactical idea with knight f5 or not. Because the e-pawn does hang, and I don't think you want to just throw out knight f5 without having an answer for rook takes e4. I don't know. To me, this without the engine, wouldn't be obvious that black just gave up her advantage. So I'm wondering if this is just some kind of like tactical thing Compy is seeing. Hmm.
Let's see. She's played a move, a rook move, so she's defending that e pawn.
Rook
Yeah,
e2.
the what the computer was wanting. It was wanting some a pawn either capture or push, but it was also wanting rook takes on d3 at that point. But it was saying that that was relatively even comparatively.
Stacking the exchange. Huh?
Yeah, sacking the
Yeah,
exchange for the pawn.
surprising, surprising. Okay, typical computer nonsense. Where it just gives moves and attaches numbers. It doesn't even know what it's talking about half the time. Yeah, position still feels nice for black, as eval bar represents. But rook e2, I feel like the intention is clear. Jules defends her e pawn. She wants to go knight f5.
Yes.
Question is, does black have anything in the meantime? Like there's a knight f4 tempo, there's queen g6 maybe. Hmm.
Yeah, and this is also just a great example of why you can't assign too much weight to the eval bar, right? So, we say, oh, e5 from Nemo, mistake. Okay, well, white didn't, sack and exchange back or something, and plays a relatively normal defensive move, and then the eval goes back in Nemo's favor. So, like, the
Right.
mistake wasn't even that big of a deal. Obviously, not as good as maybe doubling the rooks, but now here we have another opportunity to double the rooks along the f file. Knight h5 doesn't come with the checkmate threat anymore. That was the whole purpose of e5, to block out this queen. And so what it wants at that point, obviously, white wants to put the knight on f5, and the computer is simply saying, all right, well, we're going to play king h7, defend h6, and I'm assuming we're going to play g6 and say, all right, your knight had a brief stay on the f5 square, but please move along. And then we're going to crash through on f2.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Black's still very much in control. Now she's thinking. Feel like, yeah, I feel like rook f4, definitely. Seems like most logical move, but okay, you want an answer to knight f5. Hmm. But still, knight f4 also is a move for black, hitting the rook, but then white moves the rook, and yeah, you have to ask what's the follow-up. Because do we want our knight on f4? Do we want the rook on f4? Because knight looks pretty good on d3. Blocking the d file, hitting f2, covering the c file, hitting b4.
Yeah, I know knight f4 is a tempting move, right? We're hitting that rook. Uh, but I think the rook will probably just go back to the d file or something.
Yeah.
So we really like this knight attacking the f pawn. So yeah,
Okay, here's a possible time trouble move. You go queen c6, and then the trick is that if white plays knight f5, you can take and go knight f4.
yeah, rook takes, pawn takes, and the queen on the long diagonal gets opened up. Knight f4 threatens checkmate and the rook, and the rook would fall with check and a fork on the queen. I mean, that's kind of gross.
Yeah, that would be nasty. But that's the kind of move I don't know. Sometimes I look at when my opponent doesn't have a lot of time. I'm like, okay, what move can I play to make knight f5, a problem for white?
Go up saying that's a GM move right there. That's I was commentating with Canty. He kept saying the move was diabolical. A diabolical move from Kostya right there. Sacking exchange and then playing knight f4. That's a kind of
Big
move
fella.
you just sit back
Sorry.
and no, it's great. That's that's a pretty move to end a game with. Knight f4.
Yeah, diabolical is a good word. Um,
Can we get the
okay.
time? So Jules has 13 and a half minutes. Nemo's at 42 minutes. And they're on move 34. So they have 6 moves left to make before they hit move 40, which is where they will get an additional 30 minutes added to their clocks. So plenty of time for both players. I think Jules is a little bit of time pressure, but 13 and a half minutes should be enough to make 6 moves. Maybe not as much time as she would like to have, but she's not gonna flag or anything. We might see some time pressure blunders for sure. And Nemo's played the best move here, Rook H to F4, lining up again with F2.
Yeah, that looks like most logical move. He thought about it for a bit, realized rook should come back. And now black is starting to take a couple times on f2. She's got enough on that square. So white here either goes queen d2 or what else? Queen d2 just to keep everything defended, like f2 and b4. Um, Knight f5, definitely the other big candidate move here.
Yeah, I think everyone's playing knight f5 here. Knight f5, that knight's eyes, hopes and dreams lit up once Nemo played e5 for sure. But again, we'll see if Nemo comes up with the plan here after knight f5. It's simply to kick the knight away, not rushing with g6 immediately, but playing king h7 first.
Mm-hmm.
And white's really tied down there. I'm wondering if white tries to kick the rook away from f4. If there's like g3, for example, then I guess you just go in rook f3, which is really annoying.
Rook f3 is a sick move. Yeah. Yeah. That rook is just kind of untouchable. So yeah, the problem with knight f5 is like, okay, black's most natural move there is king h7, which I think Nemo will find. And then as white, you're just sitting there, okay, and then what? G6 is coming and I have issues. So it's like you can play knight f5, but Jules is trying to think more than one move ahead here and figure out like what's the follow-up. Okay, played.
Knight f5 on the board. Someone, AJ from my chat, was saying knight h1 question mark. That was a move we were looking at earlier. It's just
Yeah.
super sad. Knight in the corner is
Mm-hmm.
not doing anything other than defending a pawn. CL Smith, shout out to him, saying I would rather resign than play knight h1, which is fair. So knight goes to f5
Yeah. In
instead.
fact, just an example, if we had knight h1, black could even play like queen d4 and just try to go for the greatest endgame of all time.
Yeah, so none of white's pieces are playing, like pretty much condensed to that one corner of the board, and black is just gonna push home some pawns and try to make some new queens. Uh, as an idea. So yeah, and if you're not trading, I mean, you're going even more passive. So Jules goes for a more active approach, trying to block the rooks on the f file with a good piece on f5, but a temporary piece. And Nemo has played the top move, king to h7, calmly here, and keeping her edge on the clock. It's getting close to a 30-minute advantage. So, yeah,
Solid.
G6 is next. How do you stop it? You don't.
Mm-hmm. King h7, and look, black's pieces are just perfectly placed. Everything got to where it needs to go. Knight on d3, rook's doubled up, queen on the diagonal, and g6 is the next move, and yeah, it's a problem.
So, yeah, it is saying G3 is the best move here. It's really hard to suggest anything else, really, because G6 is such a huge threat attacking the knight. So, Jules is going to have to figure out something that is like a counterattack. So, maybe she'll play like A5. I don't know. I don't think she would take on B5. I mean, maybe you're threatening queen takes C4 if you go for G6 right away. So either some A pawn move or yeah, counterattack. So like G3. But that's further weakening the king. We said rook F3. Uh, computer doesn't even want rook F3.
Hmm.
Saying G3 it wants queen to C6. And that's I guess coming with your idea.
Okay, no, but that's supernatural. It's like superhuman level. G3 queen c6. No, I feel like g3 rook f3 is the human move.
Yeah, that was what I was looking at initially. Queen
But then
C6 is
there's
so
king
beautiful.
there's king g2
Yeah,
though.
King G2 I was looking at too. Uh, but like you have this gnarly. Okay, hold on. G3, Rook F3, King G2 walks into Knight E1. Wait, no, but
But
there's Queen takes E1. Oh no,
queen e1, right? Yeah, it doesn't work.
it doesn't quite work.
But there is a move for black, yeah? Because I mean the
So
rook
King
does look a little funny.
G2, and then you could always sack on F5. Apparently, is what you need to do at that point.
Okay. but that's not like
It's even
that's not
saying
so
you could
obvious.
still do queen to b7, and the idea, of course, like if king takes, you have rook takes on f5, pinning that pawn.
Hmm.
I'm wondering, is queen c6? No, I guess queen c6 is still fine, but it's not as good. You have to second exchange. Uh, wow. So g3, Nemo might lose an exchange.
Sharp stuff.
Like this is actually kind of wild. We could see Jules kind of get back into it. G3. I mean, Nemo,
Yeah, because it's very complicated.
when you play King H7, like surely you have to calculate this G3 idea. I mean, what are the odds she goes Queen C6? That would be insane.
They are small. They are small
You
for
you
sure,
found this move. This was your original idea.
but not in this position.
But
I
it's
found
just,
it when like takes knight f4 is just very simple double
oh,
attack.
the
You're
knight
like,
the knight leaves. Ah, dude. G3, I don't know. I don't know. G3,
yeah, it's definitely the critical move.
eval now skyrocketing at this point. This is the biggest read of the night
Well,
for this game.
well, this hangs the e pawn, I think.
Uh,
Unless she wants some knight d5, but queen d4, I feel like it just doesn't quite work. Queen g6 also,
so let's see. Rook takes e4.
knight e7.
Then, oh, there's knight takes c4 there. Brutal. But
Oh wow. Okay. That's a cool trick.
so if like rook takes, then there's queen takes knight.
All right, she tricked me. I
But
didn't see knight
let's
c4.
see. Let's see. It doesn't want you to take on e4. It wants you to take a different pawn.
Oh. Oh, is there I guess there's rook f2, huh? That's nice.
That is the top choice. The chef's kiss. So if
Nice nice line. Yeah,
rook takes,
that's pretty clean.
and if rook takes, we have queen takes. Now, there's a couple people asking about previous moves. Like, what was the computer move? You wanted to see this G3 line. And someone asking, how many moves until the additional time? So, 93 is move 36. So they have 4 moves left before move 40. But just to show this G3 continuation, Queen C6 is the top move. The idea is to take this knight and then put the knight on f4 if white takes. So the idea is we open up the queen and we are threatening checkmate on g2. So if pawn takes, we have rook takes f5, and the knight here is going to be devastating. So if they take the rook, knight takes, and that's going to be all she wrote, right? Mate in one threat. If you bring the queen over here, you're losing the rook with check with the fork. Going to lose the queen next. If you push the pawn, same thing. Knight takes with the fork this way. So it's really hard to defend g2. In fact, it's kind of impossible. So that's what the computer was calling for queen c6. Very difficult to see.
Yeah,
Now,
insane line. No one's finding that. No one's finding that.
why Jules didn't play g3?
Oh, she took. See, that's a good question for Jules, because from White's point of view, there doesn't seem to be a reason not to go g3.
Yeah, here it wants to sacrifice on. Maybe there's rook takes f5 and then queen to c6. But let's go to the live position. We've got a lot of moves coming in.
Yeah.
Wow, and she played a brilliancy here. Rook takes f2 played. Double exclam. First brilliant I've seen of Nemo's tournament so far. So she's busting out the tactics now. She's getting the full potential of this eval minus 5.5. So
I mean, honestly, it's actually just completely game over, Joe, because after rook takes f2 here, queen takes e3. When white defends the rook on f2, black can just trade into a king and pawn endgame with just a protected passer. So this is just completely GG.
yeah, computer's
If
saying,
white takes on f2, maybe she doesn't have to take on f2. Maybe she has another move, but
yeah, if you're
yeah,
not
regardless,
taking,
black is breaking through.
wow, claps coming
Yeah,
in the chat already.
no. Nice combo from Nemo.
And
I
Nemo,
think she knows she's winning.
oh yeah,
She's got this like nervous energy where she's like, "All right, come on, the game's over."
yeah, I want to go. I want to go while the sun's still out.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Jules
Yeah,
looks
6 p.m.
defeated.
in California. What we got like, yeah, 50 minutes left of sunlight or something, maybe an hour,
An hour or two.
depending where you're at. Mountains.
Yeah,
Where are you at, Joe? Are you closer to the west side?
yeah, definitely. Uh, don't want to give away my location too much, but I'm fairly close to where they are. I actually helped them set up the DGT boards, so I
It's not
borrowed
easy.
them from Miracosta College, who's part of the Collegiate Chess League. They had some boards for us to borrow, and so shout out to Miracosta College Chess Club and the Collegiate Chess League for providing these DGT boards for this event.
Nice.
Joe's locked in the Botez closet. Yeah, I'm being forced to commentate their tournaments. For Nemo and the Botezes and no, this is honestly like someone asked me how I'm enjoying the commentating, and I already answered like this is one of the favorite things that I get to do is watch these players play and help out. Like it's an honor to be able to go in person and see and interact with everyone. And yeah, you called it. Jules didn't take the rook right away. She plays a5, but this is pretty much delaying the inevitable. You can keep the queen on the diagonal, go to a7, or you could double up on the f file and play queen f6.
Yeah. Queen f6 looks very logical, because then white can no longer take on f2, because then you just take back, you win the knight, so you threaten the rook, get your queen closer. Nothing wrong with queen a7 as far as I can tell, but yeah, queen f6
Yeah,
just looks simple.
the computer likes queen a7 slightly better. It's also saying you could play queen d4, which is something that you called out earlier.
Queen d4 is funny. Queen d4 is funny. Let's just quickly see how that works. If white takes on d4
Pawn
and then
takes,
takes on f2,
rook takes, knight takes. There it wants knight takes c4.
well, let's just say king takes
But
f2.
king takes, pawn takes, king takes, and
And then
then
apparently that's just a
we
winning
just
endgame for black.
we just bring the king in, or you can push some pawn. Don't push the c pawn. That's how you
Right.
lose.
Bring the king in, I guess that's it doesn't seem like super easy, but I guess it's winning.
Yeah.
Wow, Nemo though, queen a7, cold-blooded. Cold-blooded.
Not even going to the f file.
Ice,
Yeah.
ice in the veins. Yeah.
Just say it. All right, your a pawn pushes me back one square, but I'm gonna stay on the diagonal, and my tactic works just the same.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? Because this knight on e3 is still hanging. Rook on e2 is hanging. White could try like maybe queen d2. Looks like a move.
Yeah, queen d2.
Then well, okay, black's a pawn up, just dominating position. Trade on e2. Queen comes to d4. C pawn is super strong. B pawn is hanging. Just feels like technical win.
This is move 38, so we still have another two moves to make before the extra 30. Nemo would love to finish before that happens, but I'm sure Jules will get there and have another thought how to prolong the game as much as possible. TJ asked, Joe, did you interact with all of them yet? So I've actually met all of these players in person, like before this event, except for Linda. But yeah, I was able to go and meet Linda, and it's a good time. They're all like pretty much friends already, which is great. But um, yeah, I met Jules a couple times at different chess tournaments I mentioned here in LA for colleges. Uh, Jules does take on F2. So now
Hmm.
Nemo goes for the knight. Very important. Take the knight. Don't take the rook. If you take the rook, then you're going to be down a piece, right? Because then the knight's defended.
Yeah.
So,
And this basically over after queen e3.
so queen takes. We're pinning the rook. So only temporarily down in exchange, but we're going to get it back. And if we trade off all the pieces, you'll see that we're going to simply be up an outside. Well, not outside. You're up a connected pass pawn. Eventually, your king is going to get in and gobble up the rest of the pawns. And I don't know if we'll see resigns anytime soon, but it's resignable.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe a couple moves, but the issue for white is that black is just forcing this king and pawn endgame, and it's a very, very trivial win. Jules would win it from the black side, against anyone pretty much. So I think she's gonna kind of realize that, and yeah, I can't imagine we're gonna see a ton more moves here. Um, Maybe there's queen d2. Yeah, force black to take on f2. With the queen.
You could bring the queen back on that die. You could play queen d4 or queen a7, but oh, she does
You
it.
could, yeah.
She does it. She plays queen d4. This is kind of cold.
Wow, that is cold. Just not even giving white a tempo. Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess there's nothing wrong with it. King f1 would be the move to continue.
So yeah, king f1, unpinning the knight or the rook,
But
and
but
then
maybe
forcing.
I guess actually there is a point to this. She's not just being sadistic. She's trying to win the game immediately. Because if king f1, black can play c3, and then the queen moves, and then you take on f2, and then your pawn is just promoting immediately. So you don't even have to walk in with your king and try to promote the king and pawn. Here, your pawn just gets through right away.
Yeah.
So if anything, this is kind of a little bit more, um, a bit more direct.
Yeah,
Although everything was winning.
queen d4 is actually the top move. This is just Nemo being an absolute pro.
Yeah, she wants that accuracy score. She wants that 97%.
But yeah, it's a huge point that Kostya is making is you get an additional pawn move out of it. Essentially, if you trade immediately, the king takes back and he's that much closer and your pawn hasn't been pushed yet. If you go for it now, the king is in time to catch you. Now it's still completely winning if you play, and only if you play king g6 at this point. But you prolong the game. Your king, you're gonna have to continue to work, right? Whereas in this line, you play queen d4, force the king to move. You get this pawn push, c3, queen has to move, and only then do you trade because, well, the rook wasn't pinned anymore. After this trade, knight takes, the king cannot take the knight and stop the pawn. So this is the fastest, most accurate way. And we saw Nemo out there coughing up a storm still. So
Yeah, she's still suffering.
Jules can put Nemo out of her misery by putting herself out of her own misery. Or, I mean, they just made time control, so they got an extra 30 minutes. Nemo's got an hour and 9 minutes. We'll see how long this one lasts.
Yeah. Hopefully Nemo feels good about this game though. I mean, I think she's played very well, all things considered. There were some misses, but nothing insane. Um,
Yeah, I think
Pretty good game.
she could have sacked the exchange a lot earlier. Obviously, completely unnecessary. Um, there was definitely some risk in doing that. And she showed that she
No,
didn't.
not unnecessary. That was definitely necessary. That was a big miss. Not gonna lie, that was a pretty.
That's
If
where
she was my student, we would discuss that moment
unacceptable.
for a
Also,
while.
shout
Yeah,
out to Roku
for sure.
Senso. Good to see you. Hello, White Noise again. What's up, Nifa? All right, so Nemo, unacceptable. Rook, sack the rook on f3s. Uh,
Overall, good game. Yeah, that one moment though. I mean, ugh, man, you want it. You want to take that chance. You want to just grab it with both hands.
so that was one moment. There was also a time like computer didn't like e5 so much from Nemo. Didn't end up being that costly. And then I think the last one was where she played queen c5 instead of a7. But Jules would have to find knight f5 there. That'd be kind of a crazy line to see on the board. But yeah, I guess the last thing that we maybe were considering to see is this whole g3 rook f3 line. Like that would have been very interesting because Jules very
Yeah, I'm
well could
curious
have
what would have
won
happened there.
in
Hmm.
exchange, and that would have completely changed the dynamic
Yeah,
of the attack.
yeah, that exchange stack looked a lot less obvious for black. So who knows what could have happened there? Um, that's a big question for Jules. Why not go G3 and see what happens?
G3 and she'll say I saw queen c6.
She's like, oh yeah, Queen C6 is game over. I'm sure. I'm sure.
All right. But yeah, queen d4, man. That's a cold move.
Very cold.
So c3's coming next.
Maybe she should have just taken on F2, because then Jules's moves are forced. She brings her king in. White has nothing to do. Resigns.
It's
I guess okay.
ironic.
Actually, no. The king and pawn endgame would be still tricky. Because White can put the pawn on G3 and like try to keep Black's king out. Should be winning, but yeah. Still.
So Nemo is gonna get back in the win column after the rest day. Her
And who
next
does she
opponent
play next?
tomorrow
Yeah,
is
I was
gonna
just
be
thinking. Mhm.
Anna Cramling.
Anna Cramling.
11 a.m. Pacific time. Be there.
I've heard
Uh,
of her. She's a streamer.
Anna, mostly known for her Spanish commentary of chess boxing.
Yes,
Yeah. Also known
exactly.
for being the daughter of Pia Cramling.
True.
Um, but that's gonna be a big matchup for sure. I think Anna's Anna's had some good games. Not her best tournament. She had a big loss today to Alexandra Botez. Huge time pressure on that match. I think that might be Anna there in the background. Or maybe it's one of the Botezes in a wig. We saw that yesterday. So you're always on your toes. I mean those slippers looked like they were Alex's. I'm sure these players are probably sharing clothes.
Yeah, Joe, I thought I saw it was Andrea, right, who dressed up as Anna for one of the
And yeah,
games.
Andrea had a wig, a blonde wig, and was playing with it. Yeah, I mean, I think Alex also had a wig, maybe dressed
And
up
then,
as Hikaru. I don't know.
Alex I got was Hikaru. That made a lot of sense. I had no questions about that. But then I didn't get why Andrea dressed up as Anna for the game against Alex. Why not do it for the game against Anna? Like that was.
I
I mean, I
mean,
don't know. I'm not a master level, content
I think it would
person,
be
but
too
that would have
obvious
been.
if it was Anna versus Anna. Like clearly something's wrong. But if it was Anna
Oh,
versus
just this
Hikaru,
hacky.
people would just be like, "Oh, it's Anna versus Hikaru." Like that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, thank you. All right, so King F1, C3. Yeah, Nemo's already calculated this a million times in her head. The pawn is promoting.
Gosh, don't you just love seeing the best move be played? Queen D4, King F1, C3. I mean, it's so
Yeah,
clean.
it's
It's
nice.
so
It's very
clean.
satisfying. Very
You know,
satisfying.
taking on F2 immediately, obviously still completely winning, but a little sloppy. Like you're saving yourself so much time. So many king and pawn moves. Like, nah, this is just game over. Queen D4 was a KO. And you
Yeah,
see Nemo here just looking up, just like, all right, that pawn is queening.
yeah.
But yeah, so great game from Nemo. He plays Anna Cramling tomorrow. We're going to be joined by Aryan Tari joining the commentary booth, who's also going to be finishing with the last round on Wednesday, also 11 a.m. Pacific, and that's going to be against Andrea Botez. We'll see if she brings out the wig or not.
I've heard of her as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Andrea famously known for being a DJ.
Yes.
Not the only musician invited to this event.
Andrea's been struggling though. I feel bad for Andrea. I mean, she's having a rough go of it. And it's tough when you're in round robin. Oh, there we go.
We have resigns, so
GG.
That was a 41 mover. They're signing the score sheets. And yeah, congrats to Nemo. She's improved to 3 out of 5. No. Yeah. Yeah, she's had 2 draws and 1 loss. And 2 games remaining. So we are going to see if we want to do a player interview. Let's maybe listen into the players. I don't know if they'll have any analysis.
Yeah. Got some questions. I got lots of questions.
That does look like a yerba mate.
Okay, yerba mate confirmed.
Yeah.
Nice. That was one of the questions.
All right.
Yeah, we'll see what we can go join them. Yeah. All right, let me say, I'll say bye to my chat too. Okay. Hello. Question about what?
Nemo? Okay, is she gonna check the game or is she checking the stream? Curious.
Yeah, we finished last today.
Just assume it's the stream.
Checking this.
I also was late.
Not running to check the game.
And it was hard for us to start the game.
Nemo saw everything in that game.
GG's. I still don't think we have
Yeah.
ability to.
No, it's definitely well played.
So let's see.
Zerixis, thanks for the sub for 4 months.
Hey, Bonnie, thanks for the prime. Oh,
All right, we're going to add Nemo to this call.
If we do it,
So, give me a second.
I feel like we're going to be delayed if we do an interview, right? So I could just talk to chat as well because of the delay. Checking analysis from Kelly. Okay, wait. I don't have my phone on me right now, so here it is. Hello? Oh.
Hi.
Hello. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. There's probably going to be a little echo and stuff.
No worries.
Hello. Thank you, Kostya.
Hello. Yeah, no problem. Nice win. GG.
Thank you. Do you mind taking down the board?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's delay or anything, so chat can let me know.
Your audio is going to be a little delayed.
It is? Okay. Do you want me to just use my... Okay, well, that's fine, I guess. The camera quality is much better on this. If we can just... Editors, just sync this up, please. Just when it goes to the YouTube video, just sync it. I know, I'm sorry. It's like... maybe delayed. But...
Yeah, this way Kostya and I can still hear you.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so first and foremost, how much of this Roy Lopez theory did you know? Like, at what move do you think Jules maybe deviated from what you're used to?
Okay, well, first I want to just say, it was insane that Jules, why did you play the Roy Lopez?
Oh, it's my first time ever playing the Roy.
I mean, I could tell. But I was super surprised because I played the Kraai like my whole life. I was
I have to learn at some point, because the only other E45 opening I have is Evans.
Okay.
And I didn't really want to play that against you, frankly, but...
Probably not the best.
So, I mean, I was going to have to play something I'd only ever played once anyway, no matter what I did.
Okay.
So, I don't know. And I think it was a little tough, but I think the opening was better than if I played it against Gambit.
Yeah, I think the opening went pretty well. Like, honestly, I didn't know theory. I haven't looked at Lopez in like years. I honestly never looked at. I didn't look at Lopez at all today. I did not think you would play it. But
yeah, I wasn't sure I was going to play it either. So I guess we both surprised ourselves
like that.
Yeah, I think it was a good game. There's, I don't know, without looking at eval, it got like really close towards.
I think the commentators have more. More questions to ask. Yeah. Wait, keep going, Joe and Kostya.
Yeah, okay. I mean, my big question for you, Nemo, was like, okay, you go FE6, which I thought was a good decision strategically, because you could take it with the queen there as well, but taking it with the pawn, I think, is more interesting. We play Rook F7. Jules goes Queen C2. You must have thought about the exchange sack at that point, yeah?
I did, yes.
And
was it?
Okay, what were your thoughts
good?
there? I mean, I think it was good. I was thinking, yeah, I think you should just take there. In most cases.
I don't think I actually really looked at that sacrifice. I just thought that it made a lot of sense to double the rooks and play a slow game, which is what I'm used to in the Rilo pits. So obviously, if this was like a blitz game or something, I would have been much more inclined to, but because it wasn't. Also, yeah, I see for some reason the game shows it a draw, but I actually want so feelings.
We'll fix that. Yeah,
But,
we all saw what happened.
Okay.
Got away with it.
I love that. Let's see. Queen. Oh yeah. I thought about it. I just didn't see anything solid and concrete, so I thought my position was pretty good.
I had another question about later on in the game where Jules got her knight to f5. You played king to h7 with the idea of playing g6 to kick her knight away. But did you consider what was going to happen after she plays a move like g3?
I realized I should not have played e5. Instead, I should have probably played rook h to f4 first, and I knew that, and I was rushing there. But I wanted to play e5, just to not have knight h5. But then I realized very quickly that knight f5, rook f4, g3. Wait, no, this is sorry. e5, rook e2, rook to f4. Oh yeah, just knight f5 straight away was the issue. Or wait, rook e2, rook h4. F5. G7, g3. I mean, I think my position was better. After rook 2, yeah, I still thought it was better. Obviously, I was a little worried about knight to e3 stuff, but or keep just king g2, I guess. But I thought it was okay. I was willing to play that.
Yeah.
Wait, I can't hear you guys.
I think we're just not asking questions.
Oh, okay.
No. We were just listening. I mean, you guys were playing. We've been talking for hours. You guys were playing the whole time. Yeah, I think fans want to hear your thoughts on the game.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was pretty happy with the game. I obviously had a lot of inaccuracies, but I also, I don't know, it just felt like the game kind of flowed. I think Jules had a really good start out of the opening, but then the middle game, it felt like she hadn't played the position before. So I kind of had free will to reroute my knight from f7 to e5 to d3. And I was really surprised that she didn't do anything about that. And I felt like after I got my knight on d3, it was my plans were really easy. which is just to put pressure on F2.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I think Jules just made 2 inaccuracies, but before then she was doing pretty well.
I have a question. You obviously came off a pretty tough loss against Dina the other day, and then you had a rest day yesterday, which honestly wasn't much of a rest day. I know you guys still played a blitz tournament, but it's a bit more fun for you. But do you think that helped you in like getting back in the right like mindset here again today to get back in the win column?
Yeah, so I think rest days always help, especially after losing a game. So I would definitely say the rest day helped a lot. It was nice to have a rest day after I lost. If I had like a rest day into another game, I mean, sorry, if I had a loss into another game, I would have been so pissed. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, the meta is changing. It used to be bad to lose before a rest day because then you kind of like dwell on it all day. But now it's kind of good. Like Gukesh in the candidates also lost like right before the rest day, and it was actually very good for him because it just invigorated him for the rest of the tournament. So now it's kind of nice. You get an extra day to recover from the loss and then bounce back. Yeah.
Definitely. But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys very much. I will let Kostya go, and Joe can just keep me with chat for a second.
Sounds
All
good.
right, cool.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. It was fun.
Can we please shout out Kostya and Joe? Thank you so much. You guys are awesome.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thank you.
Kostya. Thanks, Nemo. Good luck in your last 2 games.
Thank you. See you tomorrow, Joe.
All right, see you guys.
Bye. I'm gonna be heading out, hopefully. I wanna go hiking really bad. All the girls went hiking in the middle of the game. So I was like, oh, sad. But anyways, this was a really fun game. I honestly enjoyed playing this one. This was like interesting to play. But please go follow Chess Dojo. Go follow Kostya. Kostya has some courses as well. He's awesome. Also, my opponent Jules is really awesome. But yeah, today has been good. I'm gonna go do the interview and stuff, and then I'll be back tomorrow with I think 11 a.m. against Anna Kremling. So tomorrow's gonna be an early day. Hey Caspian, thank you so much for the 5. Thank you. I should go get some exercise to clear out my lungs. The girls are probably like done their hike now, but yeah. Anyways, maybe they got held up by a photo shoot or something. So I'm gonna go out, get some exercise, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you all so much for coming. Please, once again, huge shout out to Joe and huge shout out to Kostya. Joe finally does not have a 6-hour day, which is pretty nice. So yeah, I'll see you guys all tomorrow at 11 a.m. Tomorrow is an early day. An early day. Also, recaps and stuff are on, or short form recaps are on YouTube, so make sure you're following that. And let me ask, are either of you streaming? Are either of you gonna keep streaming? Recaps will be coming at some point. I'm still dying. I'm trying so hard to not die. But anyways, yeah. Go follow our hosts. And then I will see you all